What up, everybody? Good morning and a happy Friday. A little TGIF action coming at you. Appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you're tuning in on this rather chilly start to your day, depending on, again, where you're listening to us from. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. You got your smart devices, Google and Alexa home devices. Download that Sports Talk app. Take it on the go. Video streams up and rolling. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and X/Twitter, whatever you are calling it these days. But a big thanks again for making us a part of your starts. What do we got on our good old game plan for us this morning? It is a football Friday, so you know what we do. Usual drill here. We'll preview it, break it down. Packers versus Seahawks Sunday night football. We'll get your predictions, get your keys to victory, your key matchups, all that typical stuff on a football Friday. They made it a little interesting there, but Packers will not be able to clinch this weekend because last night the Rams defeated the 49ers 12-6, but some of you was across your mind a little bit. It's like, hey, can we go? 3.5, 6-6, heading into the fourth. It's like, hey, can we do this? Can they hold on? And no, Rams had to go ruin it. But Packers, take care of your own business. Take care of your own business. Get that W and inch a little bit closer and closer to clinching that playoff spot after Sunday night. So, but and also don't forget to send me your players who gotta have a game. The guys that gotta have a game, that have to have a game for the Packers to win on Sunday night. So, Packers talk coming up here in just a little bit. We're going to talk some. We'll throw in some hoops chat in here too. Bucks are getting set for their semifinal matchup against the Atlanta Hawks tomorrow. So we'll take a look at that, preview that, and such. Are you starting to get into it? Is this something that you're going to be following? It's going to be a big day for hoops. If you're a diehard basketball fan, tomorrow's a good day. You've got the Badgers in action going up against Butler. You've got Marquette going in action against Dayton, and then the Bucks game in the afternoon as well. So it's a big hoops day if you're a basketball fan. For you tomorrow to maybe stay indoors and watch a little action on the hard floor. So, but we'll talk some hoops. Take a look at that. Speaking of Wisconsin Marquette, Sweet 16 for the national tournament for Division I volleyball is continuing today, and we've got Marquette and Wisconsin both in action. Marquette going to be taking on a top seed, Penn State, and then a one seed, I should say, Penn State, and Wisconsin is going to be taking on Texas A&M. Both teams trying to get to that Elite Eight. So if Wisconsin wins, we know potentially they could go up. It's going to be a tough one going through there, but cool to see two Wisconsin teams still alive in the Sweet 16 for women's volleyball. So, but we'll throw that in there too. We're going to talk a little baseball. We got Brandon Berg who's going to be joining us here in just a little bit. Mr. Bug, we'll talk about the Brewers and maybe some of the lack thereof moves and just kind of recap a busy week in Major League Baseball overall, because I mean obviously the Juan Soto stuff, Willie Adames officially getting introduced to the to the Giants and such after he officially signed his deal and that, but we'll just kind of recap a busy week from winter meetings and such, and where the Brewers go from here now. So we'll talk some baseball with Brandon and such. We'll throw maybe some Badger football chat in there too. Got Dr. Crow inside the training room coming up a little under an hour from now, so we'll catch up with him. Chippewa Valley Orthopedics, sports medicine, and of course local sports roundup with Brandon, who will break it all down for us. So I know last night Ellsworth had that Ridiculously good last-second shot to beat Altoona in boys high school basketball. Inbounds pass and kind of chucked it up there. Long three, went in, walk-off victory over there. So, but we'll do some local sports roundup with Brandon coming up in the next hour. So, cream of the crop as well. You can always play along with us when we do our cream of the crops. You know that. So, if you got any, can be from the sports world or wherever, sending it on over. Okay. But we begin coming up on the leadoff here in just a skosh. We're going to talk some Packers. That final quarter of the NFL season officially kicked off last night, but for the Packers will kick off Sunday night, going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Packers yesterday practicing and still looking fairly healthy at this point. I mean, you looked at practice yesterday. Jair Alexander was a full participant again. You had really the only player who did not do anything was Javon Bullard, who is still dealing with an ankle injury. I think it's at this point that he is not going to play, but maybe some good news too. Evan Williams, who was in concussion protocol, elevated to a full participant. Romeo Dobbs was listed as a full participant. So potentially here, the Packers heading into this one fairly healthy. Knock on wood, they didn't have any setbacks yesterday or anything like that. So, but when you go and look at the practice report or the injury report, I should say, it looks long, but look at the designate. Literally, only one player did not do anything, and it was Javon Bullard. Whereas you look at Seattle's, I mean, their running back, Kenneth Walker, second day in a row, did not participate. So that would be a big loss over there too for their running game. But definitely, if Jair can get it going, and heck, if Evan Williams can get in the game and play, to have the secondary intact going up against DK Metcalf, Jackson, the Jigba Smith. I mean, the receiving crew over there. So if Green Bay can get their full-on secondary, especially Jair back for this game, that would be huge. Would be absolutely huge. So that was the injury report from yesterday. Let's now look at our keys to victory, our key matchups, your predictions, the players who have to have a game for the Packers to come away with a victory to pick up their 10th victory of the season with just 3 more to go after Sunday night. What has to happen? What are the big things to watch for? Let's break it all down. We'll take our first break and then the leadoff coming up in just a couple minutes on this Football Friday. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Join in on the convo. Hit me up with some texts or comments on the video stream. Let's get things going. Let's just jump right into it. Well, first, a quick reminder, December 23rd, our Festivus program, we're going to be doing it live Monday, December 23rd, from our good friends at the VFW Post 305 on Star Avenue. So if you got, they're going to be opening up just a little bit earlier too, starting at 6:30. We'll be doing the program, Brandon and myself over there from 6 to 9. Stop on by and such and hang out with us. We got the feats of strength. We'll have the metal pole, airing of grievances, all that fun stuff before we're off for just a little bit for the for the holidays and such. So, but that'll be coming up December 23rd. Again, VFW Post 305. Could be a week from Monday already, believe it or not, man. So, all right, let's get right to it, shall we? Let's break it down, baby. Packers, Seahawks, Sunday night football. How do these two teams match up? You've got the Seattle Seahawks, who are probably looking at this game. I mean, I would assume they're looking at this game. Both teams should actually be looking at this game as potential, like kind of like a playoff game, because Green Bay doesn't want to fall too far down in the wild card standings. Want to still be in competition with Minnesota, maybe for that top wild card spot, assuming Detroit takes care of their business and such. But you look at the NFC West right now, and Seattle's on top, 8-5. But right now, on their heels is the Los Angeles Rams. Seattle 8-5, the Rams 8-6. Seattle has won 4 of their last game, 4 in a row. It's interesting too because of how much Seattle has been, over the years, such a home field advantage over there. They're actually better on the road this year. They're 5-1 on the road this year, and 3-4 at home. So Seattle's actually been just a skosh better than skosh better on the road than what they've been at home this year. So let's break it down here a little bit as we normally do. Offensively, Green Bay still a top 5 offense in the National Football League in terms of yards allowed per game, or excuse me, yards put up per game, 376.4. The 4 teams ahead of them: Baltimore, Detroit, Tampa Bay, and Washington. Seattle, meanwhile, on this list, they are, well, the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they're about halfway, a little bit higher than that, but they're at 344.4 yards per game offensively. Where, if you break it down in terms of passing yards per game, Green Bay, top 10 team, they've got 231.6 yards per game. But Seattle, kind of a little bit different. Maybe if you're still thinking about the Russell Wilson days and Marshawn Lynch and that, always Pete Carroll and that. But Seattle is the 3rd highest team in the league in terms of passing yards per game. Geno Smith over there, 249 yards per game through the air. Rushing, Green Bay's top 5. They're number 5 in the league with 144.7 yards on the ground. Then you've got Seattle coming in here towards the bottom, 95.4 yards per game on the ground. The only teams that are worse than Seattle at running the football so far this year has been Dallas, the Bengals, Browns, Jets, and Raiders. Points per game, that's because you obviously score more points than your opponents. You're probably going to win a bunch of games. Well, Detroit's number 1. Green Bay is a top 10 team, 26.8 points per game. Seattle just outside the top 10, a little bit of middle of the pack there, 23.2 points per game. Now, defensively, how do these teams match up? Green Bay, total yards allowed per game, 330.5. That's just outside the top 10 there. Seattle's more a little bit middle of the pack towards the outside the top half, 50% of the league, if you will, 339 yards allowed per game. So just a 9-yard difference between the two. But if you break it down by passing yards allowed per game, Seattle is a 2, 4, 6, 8, a top 10 team in terms of yards allowed per game through the air, 212.5. Green Bay, they're bottom 10, it looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So the 12th worst in the league. It looks like 222.2 yards given up through the air. So Green Bay's pass defense is probably going to be tested if you look at those numbers, right? I mean, you got Seattle's a top 3 passing team in the league in terms of yards per game. You've got Green Bay through the air towards the bottom. Now, again, I will caution. A lot of those numbers, they don't tell the whole story, right? Because some teams going up against Green Bay, maybe playing a little from behind, because that'll factor into rushing yards per game. Now, and that's not to diminish either, because Green Bay, I think, has gotten better with their run defense. I mean, you look at years prior, and numbers tell you that they have gotten better at the run defense. There's no question about it. But I think it does factor into at different situations, during the game. If you look at Green Bay, actually, for one nugget here with their rushing yards per game compared to last year. So rush yards per game last year, they were 28th. This year, they're 9th. Yards per rush, last year they were 23rd. This year, they're 7th. And then even yak, so yards after contact, last year they were 29th. This year, 9th. 9th over there. So there have been improvements in the running game, or in the run defense. No question. No question. Green Bay, as we mentioned, top 10 in terms of yards per game allowed. Whereas Seattle, if you look at it, they're about bottom of the third, a 126.5 yards allowed on the ground there. And then points allowed per game. Green Bay's a top 10 team, but Seattle's just 2 spots back. So Green Bay, 21.1 points per game allowed. Seattle, 21.8. I mean, you're talking about nitpicking it right there. So that's how the teams kind of rack up in some of the major numbers over there so far this year. And maybe one stat that I want to throw out there too is the turnover differential. So Green Bay is a top 10 team. 2, 4, they're the 6th best team in turnover differential. How many times they've taken the ball, how many times they've turned over the ball. So they're a +9. They're a +9. Seattle is in the red. They're a -4. -4 in the turnover differential. Something maybe as a key matchup for this upcoming game, right? Geno Smith. Last couple years we've seen his career kind of resurrect, right? Getting a chance with Seattle, I think, surprised a lot of people. Was going to maybe be initially thought of as kind of a fill gap quarterback for 1 year and such, but he's proven some doubters wrong. Again, another example of a quarterback being put into a solid position and having some success. He's coming off of a game against Arizona where he was 24 of 30 for 233 yards. He has not thrown an interception since November 24th, 1 interception against the first time they played Arizona. And it was back on November 3rd in that loss, their last loss in overtime against the Rams, when he threw 3 interceptions. But so far, Geno Smith, 2nd in the league in passing yards, 3,474, 14 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Then you look at Kenneth Walker's leading their team in rushing with 542. Jackson Smith and the Jigba leading their team in receiving 911 yards. So key matchups, keys to victory here. One of them, I mean, again, you could probably say it almost every week, but the trenches. I look at this as a game that Seattle's offensive line is banged up. And even when they're at their full strength, they're not the greatest offensive line in the world. And you've got a defensive front that I think if you ask a lot of fans, they would like to see more pressure on, this group to get after the quarterback and to take the quarterback down and all that stuff. And this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for the Packers defensive fronts to get after Geno Smith and to get after the quarterback. to go after him, to put pressure on Geno Smith and to try to get him to turn the ball over. You know, it's easier said than done, apparently, because last week against the Lions, one of the talking points was, hey, the Detroit Lions defense banged up, front banged up a little bit, but they played incredibly well. Incredibly well. So it's not a foregone conclusion that it's like, oh, okay, Seattle's offensive line's banged up. Chance to get after. Green Bay's got to get the job done. They got to get that job done. But this is an opportunity for this team, for this Packers front, to get after this offensive line. I'm looking at guys like Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness. And to be fair to Lucas Van Ness, since the bye, this is according to Pro Football Focus, since the bye on Week 10, that was 4 games ago. So in these 4 games, he is 8th out of 79 edge rushers in pass rush win percentage. He is 3rd out of 79 pass rushers in true pass set win percentage. And with that pass rush grade from Pro Football Focus, 2nd out of 79 edge rushers. That's an elite status. He's graded at a 90.5. That's from Pro Football Focus. 2nd, believe it or not. So kind of maybe flying a little bit under the radar in terms of just maybe how well he has been playing over the last few weeks. Has he been like putting down monster sacks and racking up monster sack numbers and such? No. But the numbers show that in the last few games, he has been winning in terms of putting pressure at the quarterback. So I'm looking at Lucas Van Ness. I'm looking at Rashawn Gary. I'm looking at those 2 guys to take advantage of a beat-up offensive line. I'm looking at Kenny Clark. I'm looking at Devontae Wyatt. I'm looking at those guys to provide some interior pressure on Geno Smith. Make him a little panicked back there. Get after him. And especially if you do have Jair Alexander back in this game, I want to see this group and Edgerrin Cooper. I don't want to overlook the impact that Edgerrin Cooper, the rookie linebacker, could have on this team too, if he's going to be playing in this game, because then I think if you've got, this is just me, but I think if you've got Jair back, and then you've got Edgerrin Cooper back, and you've got maybe Evan Williams back and such, I think you're going to see Jeff Hafley employ some pressure on Geno and maybe be a little bit more aggressive at getting after the quarterback, especially when you consider that they want to throw the football, right? That's where Seattle's had a ton of success with their receivers. I wouldn't be surprised, and maybe just it's part wishful thinking, that I see a Packers front really trying to get after Geno Smith and really trying to make him get the ball out quicker, because Seattle likes to throw it over the top of you, and Green Bay really hasn't allowed that this year. They want to keep everything in front of them. Seattle likes to maybe stretch it and throw it over you a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see a little bit more of an aggressive defensive approach at trying to get after Geno Smith. That, to me, is a key to victory, key matchup, is to win at trenches. On paper, there is no reason whatsoever that the Packers front shouldn't beat Seattle's offensive line. There's no question about it. And if Jair is out there, obviously that is going to be a key to victory and a key matchup too, because I fully believe if 23 is out there, you can do more with your defense. You open up things a little bit more, and maybe you could be a little bit more of a risk taker. You could be a little bit more aggressive. Now, I don't know if he will shadow DK or Jackson or whatever. I don't know. But wherever he is on the field, you've got to count on that guy to kind of take care of his business and to lock that guy down. He hasn't been absolutely perfect, and Not like a Richard Sherman is prime or a Darrell Revis or whatever. But you feel pretty comfortable when 23 is out there. So a key matchup to me is going to be if Jair is out there. If he can shut down half that field, shut down a little bit of that field. Some other keys to victory for me too here. I'm going to go to the Packers running game. And especially if the elements, I know the other day we looked it up and they're talking about a little bit of rain and such, and that's Seattle but I'm still looking at Josh Jacobs and such as controlling the tempo, controlling the time of possession, making sure that you're taking maybe 7 minutes, controlling the flow of the clock. I mean, you saw the Rams last night; they only had a field goal off that, but they had a play or a drive, excuse me, that went like over 9 minutes. 9 minutes. It's like 16 plays, I think it was, but only got a field goal out of there. But you want to be able to come away with tuds, obviously. You want to be able to come away with touchdowns. But controlling that clock and having success in running the football. And we have seen, I mean, the first half of the season, one of the issues with Green Bay was been their red zone efficiency percentage in scoring touchdowns. They've climbed all the way up to 12th. It was just a few weeks ago, like maybe a month or so ago, a month and a half ago. They were like the third or fourth worst in the league. They've climbed up to 12. And their last 3 games are 80% when they get to the red zone coming away with touchdowns. They've climbed that thing. Seattle, meanwhile, if you're looking at red zone efficiency, they're about half. They're 19th in the league, 54.29%. If you want to do it by defense here, let me see if I can bring it up here if my computer wants to actually load up here. So here's your red zone defensive rankings here. Just because I always think Seattle's the 11th best. Okay, they're 11th best. Actually, they've been really good in their last 3, only giving up 37.5. 30. Yeah, 30, that's pretty dang good. Really good. Green Bay, 23rd, 61.36%. Spit it out, Dan. But their last 3 games, 70%. Oof, yikes. So I always like to look at the red zone numbers. Once you get in that area, are you coming away with touchdowns or are you coming away with field goals over there? But back to it, offensively, a key matchup, key to victory for me is, again, establishing the run, getting Josh Jacobs going, taking some time off that clock. We've seen the numbers here. If you look at the rankings, Seattle, they've been, pretty darn good at stopping or slow. I shouldn't say stopping, slowing down aerial attacks, passing attacks, and that. Control it, take some of that pressure off of Jordan Love, control the tempo, control the game flow by having success running the football and getting that play action going. If you're having success running the football and you're sticking with the running game, that play action game just opens up things so much more. And especially if there is going to be some element factor with the weather and that, run the football. But running the football to set up the pass with those big plays. Jordan Love has been playing some solid football in the last few weeks. There's no doubt about it. There's no question about it. But I think a lot of that too, it's very similar to last year. When did Green Bay get on a roll? And when did Jordan Love start to play really good? It was when Aaron Jones was having success running the football. So all the talk, and I get it, and rightfully so, and he deserves the flowers in that. And Jordan Love was playing some good football second half of the year that led him to the postseason. But I don't think it's a happy accident. Part of that reason, too, was the Packers were having success in running the football. So to continue this high play from Jordan Love, they have to continue having success in running the football and continue with that being the focus of their offense and running the football. I want to see that. I want to see that continue here for Green Bay. And we went over the turnover differentials, right? Limiting the turnovers, limiting the mistakes, no stupid penalties, okay? I'm assuming the environment is still going to be pretty electric over there in Seattle, Sunday Night Football. When it's on, it's one of the loudest stadiums in the league. No false starts, no pre-snap penalties, none of that garbage. Limit that. I'm fairly confident in the Packers' offensive line and their play in terms of protecting Jordan Love. I mean, their tackles and their interior line, Elton Jenkins and even Sean Ryan, they've been pretty darn solid this year in terms of how well they've been protecting the quarterback and opening up running lanes. I don't have a concern with the offensive line in terms of protection and opening up the running games. It's just the stupid mental mistakes, the pre-snap penalties. That's the stuff that I have a little bit of a concern about going into a game like Seattle, or at this point, maybe a lot of games this year. So limit those mistakes. Don't put yourself in bigger holes. Don't put yourself in negative situations. I mean, you look at that final drive against Detroit. What derailed Green Bay from scoring a touchdown instead of settling for a game-tying field goal? Mistakes. Can't do that. And I want to see Green Bay go on the road, going up against a division-leading team and getting a win. I want to see them going up. You could say whatever you want about the NFC West and the quality of teams here. But this is going to be kind of like a playoff-like environment and a playoff type of feel for both of these teams. Seattle's got the Rams breathing down their necks right now. They can't afford to lose a lot of these games. Green Bay is kind of in a similar boat in terms of just where their standings are at in the wild card chase. So you got a little bit of a playoff type of feel here. But I want to see Green Bay go on the road against a division-leading team and pick up a win, because the thing is, they're going to have to do that in the postseason. They're not going to be the division winners unless something dramatic happens, which means they're going to be a wild card team, which means at least through the first couple rounds, they're going to have to go on the road. So can Green Bay go on the road against a team that's playing some good football right now? Seattle's won 4 in a row, playing some competent football, but also playing some, I don't want to say desperate football, because that's not really accurate in my sense, but just, like they realize what's at stake too. I want to see Green Bay go in there and pick up a big win. It would be a big win to go on the road and pick up a win against a team that's right now at the top of their division and trying to hold on to that division lead. And the thing is, you might face this team again in a few short weeks, in like a month, when the postseason starts. You might. But I just want to see Green Bay go in there and pick up a nice road win. Get that 10th win of the season. Then you can move on to New Orleans. On paper, I feel like this is and I don't want to sound too overconfident in this game. I don't, because I think Seattle has been one of the nice surprises of this season too. I think they have been one of those nice surprises for this season for teams. But Green Bay is the more talented team. Green Bay is the more talented team for this. And I look at this as Green Bay should be able to go in there and pick up that win. I know it's the hostile environment. I know they're riding a 4-game winning streak right now for Seattle. You got a win against the 49ers, a win against the Cardinals, a win against the Jets, and a win against the Cardinals again. That was an impressive win last game for Seattle, but this one should be a Green Bay win. It should be. Let's be real. It should be. And I feel like Green Bay has the advantage in a lot of different areas in this game. But I feel like if they can dial up some pressure, get some quick pressure, not long developing pressure, quick pressure on Geno Smith, where you have to force him to get the ball out of his hands maybe a little bit quicker than he wants to, because he wants to throw it down the field. But if you can get that quick pressure, Green Bay's a team that doesn't blitz a whole lot. Do they do it this week with hopefully Edgerrin Cooper back and then your top cornerback, where you feel a little bit more comfortable in your coverage. Get quick pressure on Geno Smith. Get him a little bit rattled back there. Don't allow big plays to happen with the receiving core. Get that pressure on him. There's no reason why this Green Bay defensive front can't attack and win up front against Seattle's offensive line. And then on the flip side, Green Bay offensively establish the run, continue to do what you've been doing offensively, having success running the game, controlling the clock. But then when you got to have Jordan Love throw, he's made some big plays with his arms. With his arm. Stretching the field there. Get that run game going, establish that run, and then employ the passing attack. Especially if you got Romeo Doubs and you're going to have your full complement of players back. You've got weapons all across the board. I feel like this is going to be, I don't know why. I feel like Jayden Reed's going to have a game. I feel like Jayden Reed's going to be the guy that has a game because he could do so much, so many different things with this. And coming off of a game against Detroit where there was so many question marks about, why he wasn't used so much, what was the game plan for him? I feel like we're going to see Jayden Reed have a game. And when you look at the offense overall, I feel like he's the guy that has to have a game here too. We could say Josh Jacobs every single week that he's the guy that has to have a game. But I want to see Jayden Reed have a game. I've been going back and forth between Jayden Reed and Christian Watson, to be honest with you. Those two guys. I've been going back and forth between those. But I've got this feeling in my gut, and that's all it is it's a gut. But I feel like it's going to be a Jayden Reed game. And then defensively, that guy that's got to have a game, I'm going to go with, I could go with 4 guys here. I could go with, I could probably go with 6 guys. I could go with Xavier McKinney for not allowing any deep pass plays to happen. Packers have done a good job of keeping everything in front. I could go with Jair Alexander if he's on the field and kind of really solidifying the corner position and such. I could go with Edgerrin Cooper if he's back on the field and maybe be an aggressive pass rusher in this thing. Quay Walker, Kenny Clark dominating the interior offensive line. Lucas Van Ness / Rashawn Gary. I could go with all those guys. So I guess I'm just going to go with a blanket statement here. I'm going to go Jeff Hafley. I'm going to go defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley as the guy that's got to have a game for the Packers because I want to see an aggressive defensive game plan. If you've got your full complement of defensive players, probably outside of Javon Bullard, we'll see about Evan Williams. But I think if you've got Edgerrin Cooper back and you've got Jair Alexander back, I think you're going to have to be a little bit more aggressive. And I think Jeff Hafley has to have a game. Because I think part of that game plan is going to be to get after Geno Smith with quick pressure. Not allowing him to sit back there and get to his receiving targets of DK, of Jackson, of Lockett and such. Jeff Hafley's got to be the guy that has to have a game. Got to have the game plan ready. Because there's so many different players you can pick on this defensive side. It's Kenny Clark, it's Devontae White, it's Lucas Van Ness, it's Rashawn Gary, it's Quay Walker, it's Edgerrin Cooper, it's Xavier McKinney, it's Jair Alexander. So I'm just going to lump them all into one, and they all fall under one person, and that's defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley. All right, let's take a quick break here. We'll close up the first hour already. Your thoughts, your predictions, your keys to victory. What do you got for me, all right? Hit me up with a quick text. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Going on later this afternoon at our good friends Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, the holiday show, 4 to 7 p.m. They got an allocated bourbon raffle at the end there, too. They're going to be demoing throughout the store by the fireplace with some meat, seafood, deli, bakery items, etc. So 4 to 7, stop on by. Lots going on over there at Hy-Vee. Sounds like they even ordered some extra man cave light over there, too. So if you are looking for some stocking stuffers for that's maybe adult in your life, right? It's got to be 21 or older. Go grab some man cave lights, perfect stocking stuffer over there. Maybe grab some Dan Good burgers too for some burgers for some Christmas meals. You know, if you're going to be taking off a few days, fire up the grills and put on some Dan Good burgers over there too. Or if you got to do some Christmas shopping, don't forget Hy-Vee's got a full selection of gift cards, or check out their team shop for any apparel for your favorite teams from the high school, college, and pro level. All right, we just got a few minutes left to the top. Again, reminder for the rest of the game plan here. We'll continue to talk more football throughout the morning here, especially Packers and Seahawks. Give me your predictions for this game. Give me your players who just gotta have a game. Gotta have a game. Those or people, I should say, since I didn't pick a player for one of them. The people who have to have a game for the Packers to win this thing. And then your key matchups to key victories. You can hit me up with a text or comment on the video streams. We'll get those throughout the remaining couple hours from here. I do want to get to some baseball talk coming up with Brandon Berg in a little bit too, just kind of recapping a busy week, Major League Baseball. And where do the Brewers go from here? What's the plan for the Brewers? What should they be doing? What should they be looking at right now? So we'll hit that up. We're going to do some Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow coming up just past 7 o'clock. So we'll take a look at that as well. So, but and then Cream of the Crop, local sports roundup with Brandon too. I know we got lots going on to catch up from the local sports world. So, but finishing up the first hour, continuing to talk a little green and gold, or football wise here too. So yesterday, well, at the beginning of the week, the Packers opened up with a chance to clinch a playoff spot. They had to win and landed to lose, and then you had to have a tie between the 49ers and the Rams. That didn't happen last night, although it got a little bit close. Maybe started to get some people like, hey, is there a chance? You're telling me there's a chance here. But thanks to the Rams winning 12-6, that can't happen this week anymore. So Green Bay, even with a win and even with an Atlanta loss, Green Bay cannot clinch. But again, what does that tell us to open up the week that we're talking about playoff clinching scenarios? That Green Bay is in a driver's seat to clinch a playoff spot. Take care of your own business. Let the other chips fall where they may. Take care of your business Sunday night against Seattle. Get the 10th win of the season. Pick up that victory. And then one game at a time throughout this whole thing. A lot of teams, when they got a ton of goals. A lot of teams have, different goals throughout the season. They'll set them at the beginning of the year. And one of the more popular ones is for a team to get to at least 10 wins. Get to at least 10 wins. And Green Bay's got that shot coming up on Sunday, coming off of a loss against Detroit that, they've had a couple extra days to kind of sit and spew about it. They had their opportunities. They had their chances to come away with a victory against Detroit. That would have been a big victory and kept the race for the NFC North a little bit closer. So I'm sure that's probably eating at some of those guys that, especially since it was last Thursday. Got a couple more days to think about it. I'm sure they're anxious to get back on the field and maybe get that bad taste out of their mouth and take out some of that against Seattle. Seattle, again, riding a 4-game winning streak. They've got a lot they're playing for with the Rams right on their heels right now. Rams picking up that win. They're 8-6. Seattle holding on to an 8-5 record. So, yeah, it is kind of a playoff-like feel for this game between these two teams. And if you're not one that is a big fan of different jerseys and colors and all that, you're probably not going to like this game because, Green Bay's going to wear their all whites, white helmet and such. And I think I saw Seattle's wearing like that I'm gonna call it like a highlighter green or a fluorescent green or something like that. It might hurt my eyes watching that game. It's already hurt my eyes thinking about that one. But maybe we could have had, Seattle 90s or early 80s uniforms, a little throwback there, a little Packers typical white jerseys. That would have been perfect over there. But nope. Maybe this is just old man me, get off my lawn sort of thing. It was that. Oh, I'm just like squinting thinking about watching that game on the tube. So, plenty of you though on the texting line, on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line, picking the Packers. I haven't seen anybody picking Seattle yet here, but I'll just run through some of the scores that y'all got. 30-17. We've got a 27-17. We've got a 37-20. We've got a 34-28, and then a 30-13. Those are just some of the scores that we're getting through here on our texting line. A couple more. 27-14, 27-10, and then we got a 30-20 score over there. So that's got everybody's picking Green Bay right now. All right, don't have to play the game. Don't have to play the game. No, I'm just kidding. So, but keep those coming. All right, and then give me some key matchups and some of those people that have to have a game. A lot of you going with Jair on this one. We got a few people going with Jair. We got a couple people going with Rashawn Gary, and a couple going with Kenny Clark, and a few of you going with Jordan Love, and a couple going with Josh Jacobs. So, all right, continue to send those on over, and we'll get back to some of those picks coming up throughout the morning here. All right, that shot clock's going to cut me off. So coming up, we'll kick off the second hour with some Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. We'll catch up with him. Then we'll get to Brandon. We'll talk some local sports roundup. We'll talk some baseball. And then, of course, get back to some more football talk throughout this Football Friday. And then we'll finish up the program with our picks and predicts and all that good stuff, too. We'll throw some hoops chat in there as well. Tomorrow's a big day. If you're a big basketball fan, you've got the Bucks in action in the semis for the NBA Cup. Marquette, Wisconsin, also in action. Plus, later on today, volleyball, both Marquette and Wisconsin are in action in the Sweet 16. 1 hour in already. We've got a couple more to go. Join in on the convo, all right? I know it's a little cold out there. Might be cold to send some texts and such, but warm up with us, grab some coffee, and join in on the fun. 1 in, 2 more to go. We'll be back after these news updates.
would mean huge acreage increases in South American growing areas. And that study shows there's not enough demand from the rest of the world for our farmers to make up for those lost China sales. And the Wisconsin Farmers Union is in convention this weekend down at Wisconsin Dells. That meeting will wrap up on Sunday there at the Chula Vista Resort. That's a look at some of our food and farm news this morning on Sports Talk 105.1 and AM 790. I'm Bob Bosold.
Are you dealing with any aches and pains this season or an injury that just doesn't seem to heal? You don't have to live your life dealing with pain every single day. With Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, you can start to live your life pain-free. Whether you are a professional athlete, weekend warrior, or simply have an aching joint, rest assured that you will receive unsurpassed care delivered with compassion and respect. So make your appointment today by visiting cvosm.com and start living that pain-free, healthy life.
Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. So, what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Ladies and gentlemen, sports aficionados and armchair quarterbacks, welcome to the Dan Casper Show, where sports passion meets expert analysis. Dan's encyclopedic knowledge and infectious passion for all things sports is both impressive and sad.
I have many leather-bound.
So get ready to laugh, cheer, and maybe even facepalm a few times.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
It's the Dan Casper Show.
Second hour on this frosty, frigid Friday morning, unless you're listening to us in a nice, warmer climate out there. Big thanks for tuning in and making us a part of your start on this Friday morning. Friday the 13th, too. If you're superstitious, be careful out there. We're going to do some local sports roundup coming up here in just a little bit. We got our guy Brandon Berg joining us for that. We're going to talk a little baseball. We're going to get back to some more football talk as well on this Football Friday. But we begin this hour, like we normally do every Friday, catching up with our doctor.
Paging Dr. Crow. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow. On the Dan Casper Show.
He is Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. He was on a little bit earlier this week with a couple of his kiddos as well, but we got him back for a second time this week. Good morning, Austin. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great.
Hey, I want to start off with, I know I mentioned it on the other day with you, but just to maybe kind of revisit it in case anybody didn't hear it. But I want to talk again about Jonathan Brooks, the Carolina running back who is from Texas. I know you're a big Texas Longhorns fan, so you're probably familiar with him. But he tore his ACL. He just got back from recovering from ACL, played a couple games, and he retore the same ACL. When that happens to somebody, is that just is it a longer recovery because it's the same injury and the same knee? Is it usually the same process? Is there any concern about, will it heal properly, or is it pretty similar to somebody who tears the ACL the first time?
I mean, there are a lot of similarities to the first tear. I mean, as far as our surgical approach, when you look at recovery time, though, it tends to be a little longer. Unfortunately, the studies also bear out that re-injury rates are more common in the revision setting, meaning the second time around, it's more likely to re-tear again. So it's kind of like if it happens once, bad deal, happens twice, you start to get more concerned. Additionally, there's always a concern about additional injuries that maybe we missed the first time. So maybe a collateral injury that's been dinged up. Certainly with two ACL tears, there's also a higher incidence of both cartilage and meniscal injury. And meniscal tears, if they're not addressed appropriately, or if they can't be addressed the way you want it to, that can also lead to higher recurrence rate as well. So it certainly is a more complex issue. The other thing is, when we reconstruct ACLs in these athletes, 99% of the time we're using their own tissue. Well, likely his first one was what's called a patellar tendon graft. you can't take the patellar tendon twice. So now you're saying, okay, we're going to go to a second graft. You can either go to the other knee and take a patellar tendon, which most of us try to avoid if possible, or you have to go to the quad or hamstring tendons on that same knee. And not that you can't do that, but now, of course, this leg has now been, 2 separate grafts harvested from it, 2 separate surgeries. Likely there's at least some level of cartilage or meniscal injury as well. So I realize it's a long-winded answer, but yes, it's a bit more complicated. And then ultimately recovery. I mean, when you recover from an ACL, I'm sure you have listeners right now that have been through it. I mean, even though we tell people it's going to be, 6, 9, 12 months at least till they're back, full go at sports, even then they can look at their legs and say, you can visibly see which leg is when they had surgery. There'll be atrophy of muscle. It's still not fully built up. So if they have another injury, that leg still never got back to 100%. So it's already starting a little bit behind the 8 ball. So it's a complex recovery process, absolutely, in a revision setting. And then surgically speaking, there's already tunnels that are there. So sometimes that's to your advantage, sometimes it's to your disadvantage. So occasionally we'll do a revision ACL where it either wasn't ours or even ours, and you look at it like, geez, maybe I should have put that tunnel slightly different. And that can make it a little more complex on the surgical side. So a lot of layers to it. But revision ACLs do work very well. I mean, there's still a high success rate, and we do a lot of them. So it's not like it's give up now. There's no chance he can come back. Absolutely not. But it's more to it, and certainly recovery could be a little bit more tricky.
Has there been any studies or any thoughts when it comes to ACLs, like if there's been more success with a cadaver or the options you mentioned, like from your hamstring or such? Has there been anything that's indicated one's better than the other?
Oh, there's tons and tons of topics. So first delineation is cadaver versus your tissue. So cadaveric graft, the clear advantage is you're not harvesting anything, right? So if you have the ACL, like I mentioned, the 3 main grafts that we harvest from patients are either patellar tendon, quad tendon, or hamstring tendon. And so if you use cadaver, you don't have to harvest anything. So there's clear advantages to that. The disadvantage is it's pretty clear cut that in younger athletes, the re-tear rate is higher. So generally speaking, any young athlete, and by young, I mean people in their 20s and 30s, teens, 20s, 30s, we generally do recommend using your own tissue. There are some reasons to go to cadaver, but for the most part, we look at using that. Now, Aaron Rodgers, who is never afraid to speak his mind, he, after his ACL reconstruction, which he had done in college, he was talking to the media and saying, oh, everyone should have cadaver. To me, that's another example of someone talking without knowing what they're talking about. I mean, the studies are very clear. There is a higher re-tear rate. But again, it's not without its advantages, right? You're not harvesting anything. Now, if you talk about the 3 grafts that are autograft, meaning your own tissue, each of them has a relatively similar outcome. There are some subtle things in each direction that push us one way or the other. The gold standard for professional athletes for quite a while has been the patellar tendon graft. So for my athletes, I'm trying to get back to a high level. That's generally the graft that I use. But there's surgeons out there using both hamstring and quad tendon grafts that work well. I do all 3 of them, so I have the ability to do all 3. So that's nice when I talk to my athletes. They may say, you know what, my sibling had this one, or my neighbor had this one, or my coach said this one. And so I can do all 3 of them. And it's nice that it allows the athlete to choose them. But there are disadvantages to each and advantages to each. So you kind of talk about it and see kind of a personalized choice for that.
You kind of read my mind, because I was going to ask you. I know you're exactly right, because Aaron always talked about his cadaver one over there. So when you were talking about the younger ones there, I was going to ask you about the Aaron one. So see, we're in sync right there. So
yeah, same wavelength there.
Sticking with knee injuries, I know this happened a couple weeks ago, but Christian McCaffrey, a PCL injury, which we talked about a few weeks ago with Jair Alexander, that Jair let it be known that his was a PCL injury. So it looks like he might play this weekend finally. Christian McCaffrey has already been ruled out for the rest of the season. And if you watch that replay, I know it was a couple weeks ago, he ran, kind of fell down, but then he played another one and gave himself up. And that's kind of, everybody's like, oh boy, non-contact injury, and ended up being a PCL injury. Is it safe to say that Christian's maybe was a little bit more severe than Jair's, whereas they already ruled out Christian for the rest of the year?
I think so. I mean, there's layers to that, right? I mean, CMC is just a phenomenal athlete, but boy, he has kind of been a China doll. And I know we've talked about that. That's like, is there such thing as being injury prone? And as you know, I'm not a huge believer in that, but sometimes it's like, wow. So I think if you look at just what he's been through and coming off other injuries, they may be more likely to say, look, we're just going to shut him down. And they have so much money invested in him And let's be honest, their season's not looking great right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably part of it. But looking at the severity of the tear, I'm sure that's a huge portion of it. So the combination of the physical exam and saying like how loose is that PCL, and then what it looks like on the MRI, how high it was, the grade of injury. So like, is it 10%, 50%? It's hard to actually quantify that, but we get a gestalt of it. So I think those play into it. And then any additional injuries. So was there a meniscus tear with it? Is there a bad bone bruise? And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, is how he feels. And clearly we all saw him go down. So the injury wasn't on that play. That play occurred, the injury occurred earlier, because PCLs usually are going to be a direct blow to the front of the knee. Most common in football players is actually when they'll fall onto a flexed knee. We also call it like a dashboard injury. So people in car accidents, they'll take a hit to the shin and it drives the tibia back. And that's how they injure the PCL. In this case, obviously, there's hopefully not cars driving on the football field. So it ends up being the knee hitting the ground. And that's how they think he tore his PCL. So he tries to make a cut on that knee, and it wasn't even a cut. I mean, I think he was just trying to run.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all saw him just go down. And you're right, everyone just holds their breath, because that's always the worst thing. I mean, as much as a horrific tackle, or legs are twisted, those are bad. When you see that non-contact people go down, you usually know it's a significant injury. So honestly, all things considered, PCL tears are very different than other ligament injuries, specifically ACL, because the ability to heal is there. So the hope is he rehabs it and gets back to 100%. I think that's a realistic goal with a partial PCL like that.
With the 4 knee ligaments, is if you had to rank them, is the PCL the one that's maybe the rarest or the toughest one to tear, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I would. I'm sure there's studies on it, so and I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head. I mean, MCLs are the most common. So MCL tears we see a lot of, and they heal really well. ACLs are probably second. The LCL, which we actually bundle together in what's called the posterior lateral corner. So the posterior lateral corner and PCLs, those are probably 3 and 4. I don't know exactly which one's more rare, to be honest, but they're both less common than ACLs and MCLs. And then, of course, there's the combination injuries, so what we call multi-ligament knee injuries. And so those unfortunately happen as well. Those are certainly higher grade. And you almost always will require reconstruction. So PCLs in posterior corners, those are a little bit less common, and usually we'll see those in combination. So that is actually a common combination of a PCL in a posterior corner or ACL in a posterior corner injury. So yeah, they're less common, but the PCL, like I mentioned, does have the ability to heal itself. So when we see it, people can bounce back, and so it also doesn't garner as much attention, because often people don't require a reconstruction, so they miss a handful of games and they come back and play, as opposed to the dreaded season-ending surgery, which we often see with the ACL tears.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One of the more common injuries we've talked about outside of ACLs has been Achilles. And one player last night's game, San Francisco Greenlaw, returning from his Achilles tear that he suffered during the Super Bowl, he wasn't able to finish the game. They said he had a sore knee, but Achilles-wise, general. I mean, we see Kirk Cousins this year. He's struggling a little bit. Obviously, the other quarterback with the Jets in New York too.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, and then Greenlaw. What is the biggest one? Because you got these guys coming back from Achilles injuries and such, and we've seen other players attempt that too. But generally, what is the biggest obstacle for these players when they get back on the field or when they get back on the court? What's that biggest obstacle they got to clear and maybe get back to the type of athlete they are when they're recovering from these Achilles injuries?
I honestly, I think it's half physical, half mental. I mean, I think when we look at these injuries, I think we discount the mental portion of it, where people trust it, where they're able to take that explosive step in whether it's basketball jumping, whether it's football cutting and pivoting, and sprinting. I mean, those are things that those guys are putting their bodies right on the edge of what the human body is capable of doing, and so they have to be able to trust it. And so after going through an injury like that, there's that, lurking concern that it's going to happen again. And so I don't care how tough you are, that's like in your head. And so there's that portion of it. Now, physically speaking, I mean, often within 3 to 6 months, there's excellent healing of the tendon itself, but you're also building the muscle back up, right? So as we all know, the tendon is just the anchor for the muscle belly. So the tendon functions to insert a muscle to a bone so it can impart its action. So when the muscle contracts, it pulls the tendon, which then pulls the bone, and then it does what it's supposed to do. So in this case, it plantar flexes the foot. So when you have the Achilles injury, I mean, anyone out there that's had it or knows someone has it, when we first take off the splint, I mean, the calf muscle is just evaporated. I mean, just the amount of atrophy is just striking. So that's one of the goals of rehab, is that we build it back up as quickly as possible and safely as possible. And so getting them back to kind of getting some good muscle strength and muscle tone, and then again, trusting it. So I think that's all part of it. And then with that, you decondition the leg. So it's not like you can just isolate, like, all right, we're going to shut off the Achilles, but we're going to use the rest of the leg. You can't do that. So that's why these guys come back. And to have something like Greenlaw saying, like the knee sore, it may be hamstring or patellar tendonitis, quad tendonitis, any of those things, because that leg has been shut down and now it's building itself back up and you're getting irritation somewhere else. So we do see that relatively commonly. It could be any one of those things, but to get back 100%, I mean, it's a long recovery from a major injury like that. And so for those guys, it's just getting the leg physically there and mentally there. It just takes a long time.
Last question for you. This goes to, we have a Packers tight end that returned to practice this week, nearly 11 weeks after he last played in a game. And he indicated the other day that he had surgery on a torn ligament in his left ankle that Dr. Robert Anderson performed from him. So when you hear 11 weeks and then a torn ligament in his ankle, we talk about sprained ankles and high ankle sprains and that sort of thing, but that seems like a longer recovery time than just a high ankle sprain surgery, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say exactly what ligament. I mean, by far the most common ligament surgery would be the lateral, what's called the ATFL, so the anterior talofibular ligament. So that's called the Brostrom procedure. So those are very common. We do a lot of them. Probably the second most common would be the high ankle, and then probably third would be the deltoid, which is on the medial or inner part of the ankle. So it would be one of those three. And truth be told, I'm not sure which one he had done. With that injury pattern, again, assuming it's the ATFL, that would be a quick recovery. I'm wondering if this was more of a high ankle, so the syndesmosis, where we do those. I think we've talked about it with a couple other athletes. That's what's called a tightrope procedure, where we kind of squeeze the bones together. Perhaps that's what he had done. I don't know, but that one you could potentially bounce back faster if it was a partial, because then you had some ligaments that were still present. But to get back 11 weeks after doing a Brostrom or deltoid reconstruction, man, that would be, I mean, really an accelerated recovery process. Now these guys are, in the Bob Anderson is world renowned. But even so, I can't imagine Bob would let him come back that quickly. So if I had to bet, I wonder if this was a high ankle injury and he had a tightrope procedure and that allowed him to get back on an accelerated timeline, but hard to say for sure. I could research that and see if I can figure it out.
Interesting. Good stuff as always. I was going to ask you too, because next week, since we're both, huge Aaron Rodgers fans, do you want to have a watch party for his documentary that's dropping next week on Netflix?
Absolutely. I mean, what else would we rather do?
Right. He's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Always appreciate the time, buddy. Stay warm. Enjoy the week. Best of luck to the kiddos and their hoops games coming up here too. So we'll catch up with you soon. Okay, bud?
Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too. There you go. Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Really quick break, and then we'll be back with Mr. Bug, Mr. Brandon Berg. Coming up in we might have to duke it out. He's got his Vikings hoodie on. I've got my Packers one on. Old school NFC Central battle. We've got a question for you off the bat here, Brandon, from our good friend Surveyor Sam. He wants to know if you will be partaking in the feats of strength with him and C-Bomb for our Festivus get-together.
Well, I'm not much of like a hot food person.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very glad when you told me when I came in this morning that we did have two very capable people to do it. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's my opportunity to just kind of slink off into the corner.
Brandon's actually going to be providing the sauce.
Correct.
So
Correct.
we won't tell you what kind.
No.
We want to leave that a little surprise there. But yeah, that should be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes,
And we do have an award for whoever the winner is. Brandon knows what it is.
I do.
So stay tuned for that.
Yes, that's coming up a week from Monday.
Week from Monday. VFW Post 305 over there on Star Avenue. Should be a lot of fun. How goes it, sir?
Good. How are you?
Not bad. Not bad. Let's kick it off a little bit with some local sports roundup just to catch up, because then I want to talk some baseball with you after a kind of a busy week in Major League Baseball and such. So I don't think you weren't at this game, but I know this was trending at the Altoona and Ellsworth boys basketball game. If you haven't seen the clip over there, yes, there will be an aluminum pole too, Surveyor. I've got it already. But what inbounds pass is like half court, almost maybe a deep three by Ellsworth to get the walk off
with less than a second to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a doozy of a game in the middle border.
Yep, exactly. So, but where do you want to start off with? Should we start with boys basketball? I mean, was it last week you were just over at Stouts?
Yes,
watching some of the action over there.
Yep.
So, anything kind of stand out? What were the games that you kind of watched over there?
A
lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Western Clover Belt fared pretty well, as it usually does there, but still, like, that's always such a great event because you have, I think all the pretty much all the Western Clover Belt teams in action, but then you have some from the Dun St. Croix, and you had Altoona from the middle border, and you get these other ones. It's just a really good idea, and it's you're going to have solid teams there, so it's something that I think they like to do early in the year, because it's a little bit tougher to do once you actually get into the year, just because it's hard. It's kind of harder. Everyone's schedule is always a little bit different once you kind of get 2, 3, 4 weeks into the year. But early on, you can still land it. And I mean, just good games all around. Got Bloomer, Stanley Boyd picking up wins. Later on, Fall Creek picking up a win. Like, it's just the kind of it's one of those events where if you're just looking to go watch basketball for a while, it's a good event. And the men's basketball team of Stout always does such a good job putting it on.
Right.
That I think it's one of those things that once teams are able to kind of get into and play at, they just want to keep playing there. Like I have to imagine there may be a bit of a wait if you wanted to try to jump in there.
Yeah, I would. Good old waiting list, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah. And then I know, was it on Tuesday you watched a little Bloomer Cadet action?
Yes, little boys basketball. Western Clover Belt got underway. Bloomer picked up the win over Cadet. Eau Claire Regis picked up a win over McDonald.
No rivalry game there too.
A little bit. I mean, those are two teams. I guess McDonald as well jumping in there that I think you're going to have to really keep an eye out on. When it comes to the conference title race. And tonight Bloomer actually hosts Regis, so that'll be a big one right off the rip again. So kind of a good litmus test, I think, for both teams to see where they're at as we really start to get into the conference season now.
Girls wise, was it just last night you were watching some McDonald girls?
Correct,
basketball?
McDonald and Bloomer. Up in Bloomer. So McDonald picked up the win there. Early on in the year, I mean, last week we talked a little bit about it, but McDonald picked up the win over Regis, but and then coming back, I mean, that's a McDonald team that's still, I think, kind of finding itself a little bit. The coaching turnover in the offseason and, just a younger roster overall. But, I also think that's a Bloomer team that's going to, kind of be in that fight all year long. They were without a couple, of their more experienced players last night, but nothing long-term there. So, but they'll be in that hunt too. I think both conferences, you're going to see a very competitive at the top, matchup where it's going to be, I think, pretty balanced, but full of good teams.
I know you're watching some wrestling too. You want to talk a little wrestling?
Last night actually there was a pair of Big Rivers Conference quads, I guess. There were 4 teams, that were, I think, Chippewa Falls hosted one. That's where I was, and also Eau Claire North hosted one. The one I was at in Chippewa Falls was Chippewa Falls, River Falls, Eau Claire Memorial, and New Richmond. And Chippewa Falls won both of their matchups. They beat River Falls by the slimmest of margins. Actually, I was on a tiebreaker. After the Cardinals kind of rallied late in that matchup with the Wildcats to tie the score. And when you tie in wrestling in a duel, you go to a tiebreaker. And in that case, the tiebreaker was most pins, which Chippewa Falls had. So they won. And then they defeated Eau Claire Memorial as well. But, and then, this weekend is the Husky Invite at Eau Claire North. So that's always a big, I've said it before, but it's really that first big wrestling meet around here of the year.
61st annual one, too. Yeah.
They've been doing it a while, and they've been doing it right for a while. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I believe the girl, they've actually, I think in the past they always try to do the boys and the girls on the same day, but as girls wrestling has grown, that's just, that's a little harder to do because you have more girls, it's a good problem to have. So actually, I believe the girls one is today.
Okay.
It's this afternoon, and then the boys one's tomorrow. So lots of local teams there that, you want to go watch some wrestling.
Yeah,
it's right down the way. So,
well, I know North last night they took down Rice Lake and first program win in over a decade against Hudson.
Wow,
for Eau Claire North too.
Yeah, that's a big one because Hudson is always. They're right up there. I think them and Menominee are always two of those teams, especially in more recent years. They're kind of the if you want to be good in the big rivers, you kind of got to beat those, and that's a massive win for the Huskies.
Yeah, definitely. Hockey wise,
we are well underway. Big Rivers last night. Hudson picked up a big win over Chippewa Falls, but boys and girls are both into conference play now. So, we're going. We're off and we're going. Like I know I think early on, probably some of the early matchups in the Big Rivers you're going to probably be looking for is like a North and there's be some big ones for North too. North has Chippewa Falls coming up here in a little while, but like your Hudsons and your New Richmonds and your Memorials, obviously. I think Chippewa Falls is still going to be in there. They're still a bit like I mentioned with the McDonald girls trying to get things established with a new coaching staff there, but still a lot of, experienced players that played on that state team last year, along with some, freshmen and sophomores that are really kind of taking on larger roles this year too. So I think when all is said and done, both in boys and girls hockey, that you're going to see the Big Rivers being as challenging as it's been. That's just a common thing at this point. Both in boys, both in Division I and Division II. You can look at recent history, and pretty much every team in the Big Rivers has gone to state, be it D1 or D2. A couple of them have brought home championships, but that's not a coincidence. That's not just something that happened. That's a byproduct of very strong programs, and that extends to the girls' side as well.
Absolutely. Anything else before I hit the college sides things here? It's just a lot of stuff going on.
There is.
It's hard to cover everything.
Yeah, and you once we get that like 2 or 3 week stretch after Thanksgiving before you get into the Christmas time, like it's always just such a sprint because you got teams trying to get in a bunch of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So it's you're going. I know tonight I believe it's North and Rice Lake are playing at the Sontag, which is the first I believe high school game that's being played there. That's pretty cool that they're that's something that's going to be done. Give those kids a chance to kind of see that venue too.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch for those kids. Anybody has not gone to a game over there yet, definitely go check. Have you been there yet?
I have not.
All right.
I need to for something.
Yeah, go check out some hoops and such. So, speaking of the Blue Golds and Nets, you've got some women's basketball coming up. They're going to be taking on Wisconsin Lutheran tomorrow. Women's hockey going to be going up against Augsburg. Men's hockey, big matchup going up against Stevens Point this week in the Fighting Justice Clevelands of Stevens Point too. So women's hockey, I mentioned Augsburg, that's number 6. That's going to be tomorrow, but tonight they're going to be taking on College of St. Scholastica over there. And then Stouts as well. Kind of a fun, a little bit different because the season's going on, but they got an exhibition basketball game. They're going up against North Dakota State today.
Interesting. North Dakota State is just coming off win over Butler, aren't they? Who Wisconsin plays tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's an exhibition. It's at North Dakota State University too at noon today. So
that's fun.
You don't see that too often when both seasons are already underway.
No, but that's a cool opportunity.
Absolutely. And then the hockey teams, men's hockey team is going to be taking on River Falls this weekend over here too. And I know we got to mention, because I know we got some listeners that are involved with this, but Stout, big in the esports, Wisconsin esports. So Wisconsin Esports Conference State Championship. The Blue Devils esports program had 2 teams qualify for the Wisconsin Esports Conference State Championship this past weekend at Waukesha County Technical College. Both the Varsity Rocket League and the Valorant teams qualified through the regional lands and play-in matches earlier in the postseason. So.
And when you brought up North Dakota State, there was something I had to double check on, but I was right. Actually, there is a local connection. Noah Federson from Menominee plays for North Dakota State.
Okay,
he's a sophomore, so maybe obviously that's got to be I'm assuming he's been playing for North Dakota State, so obviously that's got to be pretty cool for him to get a chance to kind of see NDSU or to see Stout, obviously a school he's familiar with being from Menominee, but also maybe a couple guys that he played against in high school too. So that's kind of a unique local connection there with North Dakota State and that scrimmage.
Yep. And just to wrap Valorant, I hope I pronounced that correct. Probably not. They ended their season in second place with a 14-3 overall record and a state runner-up. And then Rocket League Blue Devils ended their season tied for third, fourth place with a 10-5 overall record. So shout out to all those involved with that too. So. All right, let's take a quick break. That's your local sports roundup here for this morning. We'll be back, and we're going to talk a little baseball before we get back to some more football talk here. Brandon's thoughts on the busy week in the Major League Baseball world, and then we'll talk some Brewers as well. What's next for the Brewers? What should be next for the Brewers? We'll hit that up coming up in just a couple minutes. cold out, so why don't we talk a little summer baseball here? It's winter meetings. Obviously, this is usually normally a big week in terms of free agency when agents talk to owners and general managers and get stuff done. And it's kind of wrapped up now. Obviously, the big one was Juan Soto. I want to lead off talking some baseball with you before we get to a little Brewers. And I know it's been a few days here, but you're our baseball guy. I heard Jeff Passan say it was more money than what they initially expected. I think everybody thought, okay, around 600 some million, somewhere around there. But it exploded to $765 million for Juan Soto. I don't want to get into did they overpay or anything like that. That it's whatever the market dictates at that point, right? But were you generally surprised it got that high for Juan Soto at 765?
A little bit. I mean,
Mhm.
Juan Soto's a great player, and the fact that he's hit free agency at 26.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big part of it. I mean, you're not, you can go a little higher because you're not you've in theory you've still got 4, 5, 6 prime years. That's I think the thought process behind it too. Why he got so much, but. I mean, like you mentioned, when there's a market, like it wasn't a foregone conclusion,
right?
Like where he was going to go. It could have been the Yankees. It could have obviously was the Mets. There were other people in play. So, I mean, when you have a market like that where people are really competitive, it's going to be up to someone to just kind of raise the bar a little bit more than anyone else is willing to go.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I find it fascinating. First of all, this is all Steve Cohen, right? This was like, I don't think David Stearns had a big play in negotiating the contract, but isn't it? I always find it fascinating when David Stearns, obviously we know Brewers, you go from a budget like that to he's in Mets now where it's got an open checkbook.
I had seen, wasn't the stat that he paid more for Juan Soto than he did for any, like for his cumulative budgets?
That would not surprise me
with the Brewers. When he was leading the Brewers as the general manager. Like, no, that makes sense.
It would not surprise me at all. So, but that's what I got to imagine. It was probably 95%. Steve
I'm sure,
Cohen
and when he didn't have as many restrictions, I'm sure Stearns would say, "Okay, hey boss, if that's what you want."
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
As long as it's he's saying as long as this isn't the only thing, which it won't be for them, but like, right.
So I mean, that was Willie Adames going to the Giants, then, which was I think that was before because that was announced Saturday. Saturday, I was actually at Sonotech watching basketball, and it popped up saying that he was going to the Giants over there too. So, both those guys now in the National League, something that the Brewers have to compete against. There was rumors that the Brewers were in play or runner-up for Garrett Groshette. I was reading a little bit from Adam McCulvey, and he said based off of the return that Boss had to give up, it was pretty pricey.
It was steep. It was a good get for the White Sox.
So, I mean, when you see that, you kind of feel okay a little bit better.
It didn't bother me. Like, it's nice that they were kind of looking. I mean, that just kind of seems like the Brewers' MO. Like, realistically, they always kind of got their, their nose in a bunch of different things. And, sometimes that's how you get William Contreras. But, yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, I wasn't disappointed that they didn't get him. But, I mean, that just tells you, like, they're, as is the case of the Brewers, they're looking, as we know, that there's always going to be there's going to be a limit financially,
right?
But they're looking at several different avenues.
So they did get a couple of left-handed pitchers,
right?
But they're
one's a Rule 5 pick. One was a minor league guy that he's on the 40-man roster now. He was with the Rangers, I believe. Yeah. So.
And the Rule 5 though is interesting because he's got to be on that roster,
right? That's the rule. That's the rule with the Rule 5 is the Rule 5 draft. The best way to describe it is if you've been in a single organization for a certain amount of time, but you haven't been added to the 40-man roster, you can basically be taken by another team.
Okay. Yeah.
And actually, the number 1 pick by the White Sox was Shane Smith, who was from the Brewers organization, and it's a way to make sure that teams just aren't like
stashing players.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, and they're, the Rule 5, I don't get super excited about because there are notable examples of Rule 5 players.
Wei Chung Wang.
I mean, obviously the obvious one, but Johan Santana was one. There's some others, but like for the most part, more often than not, like it's just not something that happened. Like you don't generally, it's not very fruitful. Like,
the Brewers or the White Sox have to pay the Brewers for this player, or
no? The team that takes on the player pays the player. Like there's no
no like acquisition or like package sent in return or something.
I mean, there might be like a small cash thing, but it's not. anything
Got it.
significant.
So they're not giving up something for this player. Okay.
No, it may be a little cash, but that's it.
Gotcha.
But like,
Okay.
and if that player doesn't, like if the Brewers get a couple weeks in the year and say, okay, this isn't working on the major league roster, then you just get him back. No harm, no foul.
Yeah. But so yeah, you got the one. Was it the other pitch? Yeah. So I don't know how much stock to put in them.
I don't know either. I mean, the thing with like, it's kind of twofold because on the one hand, it's just about like I think his name is Grant Wolfram.
Yeah.
From the Rangers, it's a minor league deal, so you don't get too gung ho about it. I've heard it said a while ago. There's no such thing as a bad minor league deal because even if it goes terrible, it was just a minor league deal, and you can just move on. But the thing I will always say with the Brewers at this point, though, is every time there's a pitcher that's acquired, especially under the radar, you feel like you're kind of like, okay, well, we'll see, because remember that was Brian Hudson a year ago.
That's true.
That was. That was Trevor McGill a year and a half ago off waivers. Like they obviously there's something they see there, and we'll get to spring training, and who knows, maybe by the end of March we're talking about how this Grant Wolfgram guy is killing it and is going to make the 26-man roster.
Is one of those options? I mean, what percentage, if you had to put a percentage, the Sasaki?
That's interesting because Sasaki, who was posted, so I think it's 45 days or something like that, where major league teams can make the offer. But the interesting thing for him versus other players when they came over is because he's doing it at a younger age, it's not going to be like we've seen with maybe like last year at the Yamamoto.
Yep. It's more like Ohtani, right? Where
a little bit, where it's not like you don't have an unlimited budget you can spend. You actually have to spend out of your international budget, where a lot of times you'll hear about this. I think it's in like sometime in the winter. I forget when the international signing day is. I think it's like February or something, where you'll hear a lot about, they signed this person. A lot of times it's out of Latin America. That's where a lot of the scouting comes from. Or each team has a pool that they can spend, and that's what they can spend. Be it 3 million, 4 million, whatever it is. And so that's what these teams have to offer Sasaki. So he's not coming over here to get rich right away. Don't get me wrong, he's going to get money. But so it's not necessarily the team that can offer him the most. And his agent is saying the right things as far as, well, maybe it might be better for him to go to a smaller market to kind of get his feet under him in the United States for a little while.
And because a lot of that was the negativity from the Japanese media, because I was reading that because he's leaving so early, they kind of take offense to it or something like that.
Yeah, because normally, like, some like Yamamoto had pitched in Japan for a while. So once you pitch a certain amount and then you get posted, it kind of opens up to more money.
Right. Yeah.
So, but since he's basically betting on himself and saying, no, I want to go pitch in the United States. So, and he's sacrificing some money to do so, knowing that, if it goes well for him, obviously he'll get paid more on the other end. But that's interesting. It's interesting. And that's, that would be great if that happened for the Brewers, but we'll see. But at the same time, like, it's not necessarily just all about who can pay him the most, because teams essentially can pay him about the same.
Right. Yeah, I think the interesting part there too is how much is the media market a thing, like his agent kind of threw out. Now, he didn't say it's a for sure. He said possible.
It's possible, and that's the right thing to say, because you're not going to flat out come out and say, well, maybe the Dodgers, the Padres.
Right. Yeah. Because literally anybody who wants to be in can essentially be in.
Yeah, you can give an offer, and then he'll mull them over. And
I mean, it says the right things about peace and quiet. Media. It's Milwaukee. The one thing that works against them, though, is if he does want to be on a coast, like West Coast, over there. Obviously, Seattle's one. Maybe potentially that could work out for him.
I think San Diego is an interesting one. I mean, that's obviously still a
Giants need some pitching too, right?
Right. I mean, that's still a larger market. I believe it's been said like his hero is Yu Darvish. Or he really likes Yu Darvish. I forget the exact, but either way, like, obviously Darvish pitched for the Padres, so
right.
Maybe that's a connection there, but we'll see. I mean, that's that would be a good get for the Brewers if that could happen. I don't know the likelihood of that, but
got to imagine probably an underdog in that, but
probably. But I mean, they can go to him and with that and say, hey, and we're also successful. They can point to their pitching development and say, hey, we can really help you be the best version of yourself. And you would have an opportunity here, not only come in here, but you would think win.
Was one of their last ones, would that have been like Aoki when they got him?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, another one, I mean, because like someone they signed, but it was obviously different, was Eric Thames. because
Okay.
he just played
Oh,
because he
yeah,
just
yeah.
played in Korea, but like he
Yep.
wasn't.
Yep.
He's American. He played in the majors before that, and then he
Right.
went to Korea, and then he came back.
Mhm.
So yeah, Nori Aoki would be one.
Mhm. I was trying to think of some of their last ones that they actually were able to get
Yeah, he would
and
probably be
pick
one.
up. So,
And he
but
actually ended up posting a pretty decent, like lengthy career. Like obviously he was only with the Brewers a couple of years, and he got traded to the Royals. But like he bounced around for a while and was just like a solid third or fourth outfielder for a while, and that's
mhm.
that's a good career for someone making that jump.
You're a little surprised that Corbin Burns hasn't landed on a team yet. Max Fried's with the Yankees and such, and here we are. Corbin Burns is still out there.
I think it's probably sooner than later.
Yeah.
I mean, the Soto one was the big domino,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously Fried too, just one of those big pitchers.
Yep.
And then I think it just kind of goes from there.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to be the Giants. Corbin Burns going back to California. That's where he's from. Maybe pairing up with Willie again over there. I know the Red Sox are being thrown out there as a possibility. That's where I think it's going to come down to Corbin, right? Like this is going to be his only big contract.
Right. Yeah.
Is he looking to cash in or still try to go to a contender type of deal? That's go to Boston. You're still behind the Yankees, and I don't know what Baltimore situations are going to look like coming up here in that too. So, but I'd be interesting if it's a couple of Brewers, former Brewers, going to the Giants there.
Yeah.
Buster Posey spending some money right now.
Yeah.
Over there. So what should be the next thing though that the Brewers take a look at? Position wise, we know they're probably going to need a third baseman, right? And because I would imagine Ortiz is probably going to be the guy that moves over there. Pitching, I mean, they don't got Colin Ray anymore, right? I know Matt Arnold mentioned that the plan is Woodruff being a part of the rotation, but they're still being cautious with that, and you're not going to know until you actually get out there, right? Robert Gasser's not coming back till maybe September, and who knows if even that's the major league level. That might be AAA. So, I mean, I'm looking at it as that, Freddie Montas is with the Mets, starter and third baseman at this point.
I think so. Yeah, I think the Willie Adames thing was just kind of the first domino of like, okay, now the offseason for the Brewers can really begin. Because that was one of those things where even though you kind of knew he was gone, you still had to kind of see it before you say, okay, he's gone. Now we have to kind of figure out, but yeah, you're right. Third base, like assuming Ortiz slides over to short, which, I mean, one thing we've seen with the Brewers over the years is it's not always kind of the conventional easy thing. I think that's why the Rhys Hoskins signing last year was so surprising because it just made so much conventional sense. But yeah, third base, obviously they need somebody to kind of, help bring a little bit of offense there.
And maybe that comes part of a Devin Williams trade.
Could be.
Some
could
point.
be. I mean, that's the other big domino too is, by reports, like the Brewers would have a pretty active trade market for Devin Williams if that's a route they wanted to go down. My personal opinion, I think they should, just because it's just easier to do in the offseason. I mean,
it's very similar to Corbin last year, right?
A little bit. Like, if you're going to do it, you do it in the offseason. So, and that's going to bring them back something. Now it's going to be interesting to kind of see what they prioritize with the Devin Williams trade. Do they prioritize, major league help, which it seemed like the Brewers did with Corbin Burns, or, are they willing to, grab a couple younger players that might be a year or two away? But to me, like you said, that's kind of the first two things: third base, corner infield, I guess, just because, it wouldn't be a bad thing to get someone that can play both first and third, knowing that Rhys Hoskins really shouldn't, he shouldn't be playing first every day. And then, adding to that starting pitching group.
Right. Yeah. So been got the first domino, first couple dominoes to fall, as you mentioned. So now it's like, gotta imagine Corbin's gonna be fairly soon.
I would think
at some point, right? Fairly soon. So, but anything really surprised you so far with some of the stuff that's gone out there?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I
mean,
mean,
a lot of the stuff were like rumored, reported, like even Willie to the Giants.
Yeah, that was in the ballpark, but like,
and you felt like if the Yankees were going to lose out on Soto, they'd maybe get another pitcher,
right? And they may try to find another impact bat.
I saw some stuff about maybe Bellinger. Would they?
Could be. Obviously, the Cubs are. It sounds like the reports were they were looking to move him because of the contract, and they've got young outfielders that they can play in that spot. So they're maybe looking to kind of shed some of that salary.
That Central, though, has been pretty darn quiet so
a little
far.
bit. I mean, the Reds have made I like what the Reds have done so far, not just with the Terry Francona manager hiring, but going out and getting Brady Singer from the Royals, trading Jonathan India away. like I like what they've done. I also liked what they did last offseason too, and that them being my pick to win the NL Central in our picks last spring did not work out super well for me, but I do like what they've done so far.
Do you think if Frank Horner was a manager last year, they're division champs? Or
I don't know. Like it's tough to like it's always tough to quantify how much a manager makes a difference, and they were they were a bit off the pace. So it's tough for me to say, oh, the manager makes a 9, 10, 11 game difference.
Right.
But who knows? I mean, I think he's definitely an upgrade. You know, he's I think one of the best managers of the 21st century when you look at just the different ways he's been able to win with different teams.
This is a really random question, but just to wrap it up here. With the Pirates, if that managerial job got opened, how attractive would that be, knowing that you don't have the greatest budget in the world, but you have Paul Skeens?
You have Paul Skeens, you got Jared Jones, you've got some good young
Reynolds.
talent. You've got some good young talent. There would be interest in it. The downside you mentioned is like the ownership has not shown a serious commitment to spending.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, at this point, like, are they already? Is management, even if they're not saying it,
Hell, the A's spent a lot of money already.
Right? They threw some money at Luis Severino. Like, you would think, Bob Nutting is pretty notorious for. I mean, there's owners in Major League Baseball that don't spend, and he's one of the worst when it comes to that. Like, that's a team, that's a franchise that should be better than it is, and that's a big reason why. But I mean, that would be probably part of it because it would be frustrating because you got Paul Skeens, you got Jared Jones, you got these good young players, but it's like there could be more.
Right.
Like if you think, and let's put this, I've said, like, obviously Bruce fans get frustrated with that at times, but like it can be a lot worse.
That's true.
And that's not to put Mark Ananasi on a pedestal, but that's to say, hey, no, there's others that can be much worse with that kind of thing.
All right. Good stuff there. We've got 2 hours in. Coming up next hour, we'll kick it off with a little cream of the crop. I don't think Devondre Campbell is going to make cream of the crop for anybody.
He didn't make my cut this week.
So we'll kick that off, and then we'll get back to some more football talk. We're gonna have to make sure we make the Army-Navy game in our picks and predicts. So if I miss it, make sure you remind me.
I will scream loudly
too. So, but we'll talk some football coming up in the final hour here too. Don't forget to join us in the conversation. Hit us up with some messages on the video stream or that Shoe Doctors bullpen line 715-830-1912. We've got some news updates, and then just in a couple minutes we'll finish up the final hour after these few words. Third hour kicking off right now on this Friday morning. TGIF, Brandenburg sitting across from me over there. We're going to get back to some more football talk here this morning. Continue to send your predictions, your picks for the upcoming games this week. And even if you're not a Packers fan, if you want to pick Army Navy, you can do that. You want to pick another game, you can do that. Send those on over. Give us your key matchups, your keys to victories, and such. We'll get back to some more football talk. But first, we're going to lead it off with a little cream of the crop. All right, Brandon. If it's not Devondre Campbell, who is your cream of the crop here this morning?
My cream of the crop is the Detroit Lions, and not for the reason not the reason you would think.
Okay, I'm ready to.
The reason they are is because the Detroit Lions yanked the season ticket from the guy that was talking crap to Matt LaFleur.
Okay, yeah, okay, now we're good.
That's why, because obviously that came to light there, before the Packer-Lion game last week, where there's a fan that was jawing with Matt LaFleur, and we learned a little bit more about it. Apparently, it was a season ticket holder that was on the field holding the big American flag during the national anthem, and just felt compelled to start talking trash. And even at the time, you see the video, I'm like, that's very dumb for that person to do. And also, it's kind of gutless because Matt LaFleur's not going to do anything.
Right.
Like you're talking trash to somebody that you're not going to get any repercussions for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he got his repercussions this week. The Detroit Lions informed him they were yanking the season tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And I
was
think
it worth it?
And good for the Lions for doing that. Like you can't. That's
kind of like the Yankee one where the guy was trying to wrestle the ball away from Mookie Betts a little bit.
One,
but
that one was like above it to me. They're both bad,
right?
But like, it's just like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what compels you to think like, hey, that's the coach of their team. I'm gonna go talk crap to him. Like,
because you got to imagine in the back of your mind, maybe obviously he wasn't thinking, but I would think at some point like, okay, this is a risk of like I'm gonna lose my.
Come on, you should. You would think so.
Mm-hmm.
But good for the Detroit Lions for saying no, we're not gonna take that.
Mm-hmm. Didn't bite. They bit his kneecaps off.
So
right there. Okay, I thought you were gonna go a different direction.
No,
so you're right. Okay,
no.
You're right. All right, Brandon. All right. Okay.
All right, Dan.
My cream of the crop. It's dumb, but it got people talking. 30 for 30 for releasing the Mark Gastineau and Brett Favre clip. It's so manufactured. It's so awkward. But you know what? It's got people wanting to watch that.
It does.
And it's got people talking about that documentary. Because I'll be honest with you, leading up to it, I was like, okay, 30 for 30 on Sac City. No.
That was one of those where like, I'm sure I'll watch it at some point, but it's like, it's an appointment viewing. Like,
but you got your free marketing advertising.
Can I just say that I don't like either end of this? Like, and in some ways I kind of feel bad because like, look, obviously in the 80s, Mark Gastineau for a period of time was a feared pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
And look, obviously I think Sam Decker took some arrows about this week, but Favre took a dive for Michael Strahan. I think we can pretty much all agree with that.
It wasn't a flat out dive,
but like,
I think there is more to it. With the fact that he said he audibled out and rolled out, like I think he planned on it a little bit.
I mean, when you looked at the play, they're up 9 with like 2 minutes left.
Yeah,
the linemen are run blocking.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. Favre audible out of it and rolled out.
It was yes.
Yep.
So we can say like Favre, like that was Favre's decision to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like I kind of like, and at the same, I do think Gastineau's kind of going overboard with this. And as you said, maybe part of it is just to sell that. But at the same time, like I also feel bad that someone feels that something is so important to who they are, a record, that they have to go to that level.
I think what it clearly boils down to is that he's realizing I missed out on cash from marketing purposes.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah.
But the thing he is forgetting about, TJ Watt. TJ Watt has the same, is tied with Strahan. So even if he wants his sack back, take it back. TJ Watt has still got more than you.
Right.
So it's like, what's the point here?
Yeah. It seems a bit, not necessarily a bit. It seems to be attention.
I think it is attention. And I think, at that point, nobody's thinking about, I'm going to market this and, what is it? Brand it, but what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not copyright. You know what I'm talking about? Like
Yeah.
Patriots were doing it when they were going to go 19-0. They
Right.
trademark. That's the
Trademark.
one.
Yeah.
Trademark.
I don't think he was going to be releasing a Super Bowl shuffle that was like the Gastineau.
And I highly doubt he was thinking about
Boogie.
trademarking Sack City or Sack King and all
Right.
that.
Yeah.
That's exploded over the years in the last few.
Yeah. It's just a bummer to me that, unfortunately, someone feels like something was such a part of that was such a part of him that he has to complain.
Yeah.
Even if I do feel he was kind of in the right to do it, because, like I said, Favre definitely.
Well, and the fact that it was, because I know Tauscher even talked about it this week, and Tauscher said, yeah, Favre. And remember, Tauscher was the right tackle.
Yes, he was.
But that was a tight end on Strahan on
was
that
it Bubba
play
Franks?
too. I think it was Bubba. But yeah, so I mean, even Tauscher's like, yeah, Favre.
Yeah,
did that, and I think there was more. I think it was the perfect scenario for it to happen.
Right.
It wasn't a drop back, and then he saw Strahan coming, and he just dove.
Yeah,
it was a running play, and he's like, okay, I'm going to do this and see if it happens to work out.
Right.
And what worked out. I mean, the fact that Favre even put it in his lengthy post, maybe I was thinking about helping us. You did.
Yeah.
It did. It made it. I think it made it look better. And if this was part of his play, it made it look better that he rolled out and boom, Strahan was right there.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if
better.
He was there and then suddenly he's just kind of back. He rolls out and there's no one around him. He's just kind of looking around and no one's out for a pass. And then yeah.
Because don't tell me that Favre all of a sudden at that point in time of his career is like, okay, I'm going to roll it out and pick up a 10-yard gain using my legs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He ain't going to Lamar Jackson it.
Right.
He's not going to do that for
He
crying
didn't do
out
it
loud.
7 years later, so.
Ooh. Cha-ching. So,
but yeah.
Those are our cream of the crops here this morning. But before we get back to some NFL talk, Brandon, because you are Mr. College Football.
I am.
Did the College Football Playoff Committee get it right?
Yes.
I think so too.
Yeah. And that I was worried because they would have set a very dangerous precedent if they dropped SMU below Alabama because they lost a very ultimately what was a very competitive last second ACC championship game.
Kudos to Dabo Swinney for going out there and saying SMU is a playoff team too.
And even afterwards, when they were announced, he was very excited. Over the years, I've not necessarily been a Dabo Swinney fan for a couple of reasons, but I will give him a lot of credit. His post-game interview was one of the best post-game interviews I've ever seen from a coach. He definitely he took the right approach with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got no complaints about it. What are your thoughts though? A lot of people are saying it kind of screws Army though. If Army wins this weekend, you're talking about a one-loss team.
Yeah, it does.
They can't get in at it.
I mean, the thing that works against Army obviously is that their one high-profile game against Notre Dame, they got run out of the building. Had that been a little bit more competitive, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if they beat Notre Dame?
Well, I think they're in, but if they lose to Notre Dame by 7,
right? Ooh, that too.
Are they in?
Yeah.
I think you can make a case. I mean, let's put it this way: you're not gonna tell me that Army being in there is not a good thing. I mean, I love me some Service Academy football. So
who wouldn't want to see Army in there?
How much fun would that be?
Besides maybe Nick Saban, but yeah, I honestly I looked at it, I got no complaints. I mean, you could say, well, Penn State's got the easiest path, and Oregon might have to play either Tennessee or Ohio State.
Maybe I think you can make you can make the case that maybe instead of it being purely bracketed, you reseed high seed versus low seed.
Yeah. That would be the one thing. I think.
I have no problem with that. So if SMU pulls off an upset, do they go play in Oregon? Okay, yeah, no, I think that's fair.
Because and let's be real, you might have Penn State versus Boise State or whatever it is, and it might be Oregon versus Ohio State. Is that fair to Oregon if they're the top seed that they're probably playing a better team in Ohio State? I agree with you. The seeding wise, maybe you adjust that.
But no, I think for the first one. And I'm really looking forward to this because there's some fun matchups. Obviously, Indiana playing Notre Dame, 2 schools from Indiana playing in Indiana. That's fun.
How big of a recruiting win would that be for Indiana?
Oh my goodness!
Notre Dame?
I mean, Kirk Cignetti's already had a really good year. I mean, you can Google him if you want to find out more. But, yeah, that would be gigantic. And Penn State, SMU. There's just Ohio State, Tennessee. That's such a fun matchup. Yeah. That's they got it right. They got it right.
I do too. I agree with you. Now, did the Badgers get it right with their offensive coordinator hire?
I was very underwhelmed at first. I've been able to kind of be talked into it more because for this simple reason. The Badgers did get somebody who wants to run the football. And that's a complaint I think a lot of Badger fans, including myself, have had at times, like, run the football. Now, it's not going to be all I formation stuff. It's still going to be a lot of shotgun type stuff. But to me, how you do it doesn't matter as much as if you do it. And you've got someone that, he's going to want to run the football. He's going to get the quarterback involved. Obviously, I think the big domino was once Jeff Grimes was hired, like, Brendan Locke just is not a fit for that. Like, he's not a running quarterback. So the Badgers, by reports, have been active in the transfer portal trying to find a veteran quarterback. Because
who's the one guy that's from Cal, like Wisconsin's a finalist with Georgia?
I think, he was one. They're gonna look for a dual threat quarterback. That's just, I mean, you look at what happened with Kansas. That's what they had. Now, I don't even know if he's in the portal, but I think he's going to be. But I have an absolute dream for who I would want it to be.
Who's that?
Cam Rising.
Oh, geez.
Who's like 28 years old at this point from Utah. But because Utah got, I think it's a quarterback from New Mexico. Like they went out and got a quarterback. So usually when you're getting a pretty high profile quarterback, you're not, you're kind of showing, hey, this is what we're doing.
Right.
But I don't even know if he's going to play next year because he's had injury issues. But I mean, it's going to be different. But like, this is going to be a team that I think is going to play a lot more physical. I mean, early on, the big win was getting Trechka Kahuna to come back. He's someone that's, it's also, I think, an offense that likes to get receivers involved a little bit in the run game. So maybe some jet sweep, stuff like that, which I think would be great for Kahuna because he's just the type of guy that you just get the ball in his hands and let him go. And it was always surprising to me how they couldn't do more of that this last year. Like even with just screens or push pass or something, like it's not hard to manufacture touches. And that was just something they didn't really do, and that surprised me.
Right.
So hopefully they can with this one. But also the thing too is on Luke Fickell's end, like you got to hope this is right, because if it doesn't work, you're not going to get the chance to hire another one.
Yeah. Yep. All right. You ready to talk some more football?
I think so.
Some NFL stuff.
I think so.
All right. Let's take a quick break here, and we'll get back to some more NFL talk here. Obviously, we got Packers, Seattle. Yours is Monday night, so you got you got an extra day.
We got time. We got a busy Sunday of no football for either of us of consequence.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I suppose you would have to too, but it was a good run with the noon games and the early games. It was a good run.
Yeah, actually, I mean, Vikings might be in a similar boat in a couple weeks with the Packers too.
That's the deadline to flex that game's got to be coming up.
It's coming up. I think it's the 23rd. But I think they usually do it a little bit before that. So probably next week.
Okay. Yeah. That thing's going to be flexed.
It's going to be moved to it's either going to be moved to night or it's going to be moved to the late window.
3:30 or 3:25 or whatever.
Yeah, the late window.
Yep. So, all right, we'll take a quick break here, and we'll be back to talk some more NFL football coming up after these few words. Before we get back to some NFL talk, one thing I forgot to bring up, I wanted to get your thought on here quickly, Brandon. You being Mr. College Football and that, will it work with Bill in North Carolina?
I don't know. Like hearing when he's like, "Oh, we're gonna bring the pros to college." Like, but how many other pro coaches have tried that? On the other hand, this is Bill Belichick.
Right.
And I do feel that Bill Belichick has more of a respect for the college game than maybe some of those other coaches that said that did.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you this, I'm really interested to see how it goes.
I do think it's a benefit that he's going to the ACC.
Yeah.
Because if he's going to the SEC, there's going to be a little bit, I think. I don't think there's going to be an instant. ACC, yes, you got Clemson and all that.
Yeah,
but
it's a little bit easier, I think, to maybe break into that upper echelon.
Right. My question is going to be like when he was first talking about when he was on Pat McAfee's show. And, this is before he got hired, and he kept saying, capital if I do it, it's going to be like an NFL feeder program and all that and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, cool, that sounds great. Like some people are like, oh, that's awesome. It's good. But then I'm like, but is that a main draw for kids these days? Or is it, where can I get the cash right away sort of thing? Like, where's that balance? And on one hand, though, too, because he hired Michael Lombardi to be the GM of his team, it's kind of like a little NFL, though, too, because you're kind of giving money, contracts and that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think I don't think he can coach this program the way he coached New England.
No, he can't. Like, you're not going to be able to get after.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just if someone has a bad day at practice, you can't just walk up and go cut them.
Right.
Like that's not how it works in college.
Yeah. So if he does value wanting to be a teacher, like he says he wants to, and all that, the thing is, I think he can succeed. I just don't know if he will.
Yes.
Like I almost feel like, is it almost like he can't get in the way of his own, if that kind of makes sense a little bit. So I know he's keeping Freddie Kitchens. I kind of forgot Freddie Kitchens was over there. So I'm curious to see what other staff he brings over. Is it going to be all NFL people? Like
right.
He's got assistants who are available. They don't have a job right now.
Is he going to be able to pry his son from Washington?
Or he's got another son with New England too, coaching. I don't think Josh McDaniels is doing anything right now if he wants to bring the whole gang, back together. Romeo Crennel and
Charlie
Weiss and Matt Patricia, Joe Judge.
Hey, bring Aaron Judge. Why not?
So I'm kind of curious, is it going to be all NFL people then? Or, will he actually? It's just, to me, it's also fascinating too. Like one of his good friends, Nick Saban, left the game because of this. And
he's giving it a shot.
He's giving it a shot.
I'm sure they've talked.
I would imagine they had to. So it's the one game, somehow make it happen. Let's get Colorado versus UNC. Just
if Deion's still at Colorado, my goodness, like a bowl game or something.
Mm-hmm. Yep, let's make it happen. So, all right, to the NFL then. We've got you've got a division game coming up on Monday night for your team, Vikings and Bears. At this point, Packers are trying to catch the Vikings here. I feel like now, Brandon, I don't know about you, but I feel like that 5th seed, the top wild card spot in the NFC, is now more important than maybe what it was a couple weeks ago, based off the fact that 5th seed's probably playing an NFC South team, whereas the 6th seed is probably playing the NFC West. And right now with the Rams, I don't know if I want to play the Rams.
Right. No, the Rams worry me.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams worry me. We're kind of seeing the last few weeks kind of the top end of what they can be, which is still a very dangerous team.
Mm-hmm.
They've got, with Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp.
Puka is just lighting it up.
Right. And that defense, like, give that defense credit too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously last week they won a shootout with the Bills, but
then the fact that it was 12-6 last night.
Right. Like that game. That Rams team, like Jared Verse has been a really good, infusion of edge rusherness. But
is that a word?
I don't think so. But I would be worried to play the Rams right now.
So
I would agree.
That's why I feel like it's, a couple weeks ago we were saying, oh, it doesn't matter, if who's the 5th and 6th, they're probably going to be favored to win. Now it's changed a little bit to me, where I'm like, I don't want to go to LA and have to play the Rams.
Right. The thing you can say about going to LA is, I feel like if it was Packers or Vikings, they would both travel well for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would not be a hostile environment for the road team in that case.
Mm-hmm.
The most hostile thing would be the team that's waiting for you, specifically those players I just mentioned.
Right. Yeah. So, that to me is going to be the interesting part in this race here. Let me bring up the playoff machine here, and I know there's going to be because right now the Rams are the NFC West leaders, 8-5, but Seahawks is 8-5. They're the NFC West leaders, but the Rams are now 8-6. So I mean, you're looking at this game, focusing on Green Bay and Seattle here for a minute. It's kind of like a playoff type of game.
Yeah, like it's very important. If Seattle wins, obviously they're up
maintain
top.
their lead. Yeah.
If Green Bay wins, they keep the pressure on Minnesota going into Monday night.
Mm-hmm. And for the final
couple weeks, knowing that there's one more matchup in there.
So let me this is going to be very, very generic here. Okay. Yeah. So without picking the other games, I don't know if there's any tie-breaking scenarios here, but yeah, if Green Bay wins, then the Rams are that top seed. And who's the last game? Seattle and Rams.
Yeah.
That might be the flex game.
Well, because there's a lot of conversation because Minnesota plays Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Detroit might not have anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those could be that could be like a 14-win team and a 13-win team, but it might not matter.
And that's where I kind of go to the point too, like put a little bit of maybe pressure on Detroit, like go for Buffalo. Like for Vikings.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You got to go for Buffalo this weekend,
right? Yeah. You want to go into that. If you're the Vikings, you want to go into Week 18 thinking, hey, if we beat them, we can, maybe be the top seed, at the very least be the division champions.
And from a Packers standpoint, though, too, I'd be cheering for the Lions probably at that point because if I want that 5 seed, I want you guys to lose.
Right.
So whether you're a Packers or a Vikings fan, you're cheering for Buffalo hard this weekend.
Yes, you are.
To go into Detroit to win, because I think the best thing possible is you want to make Detroit play.
Yes.
That final game, play it out.
They have to play it out.
We each have different reasons, but you want that to happen.
Yep.
So, I mean, obviously, I think Minnesota would love to be in a situation where they don't have to play their starters and try to get that division, but that's not going to happen. So
right.
You want that chance. So, be Buffalo fans.
Yeah.
Be Buffalo fans this weekend because, I mean, after that, you got the 49ers for the Lions, which doesn't look as great anymore.
Yeah, it's not as daunting as it was.
Bears between those two games. So, and that's at Chicago. Maybe, I don't know. But, yeah, go Buffalo. Go Buffalo. But I didn't think it would be that much of a drastic difference. But kudos to the Rams. They're playing some – are they playing the best football of anybody right now in these last couple of weeks?
They've been pretty impressive.
That offense right now is worrying me.
Right, that's a team that could win some games, as we've seen, like 38-34.
Yeah. To go, or I should say to go, but to beat Buffalo the way they did in that shootout there. I mean, that was pretty impressive. That was pretty impressive. So, well, it's this final quarter of the regular season, now officially kicked off last night with the Rams defeating the 49ers. What are some of the other things, just in a general sense, that you're going to kind of watch here? Or what races are you going to watch? Is it like, could Baltimore try to catch Pittsburgh? I mean, Pittsburgh, we got a good game with Pittsburgh and Philly coming up this weekend. Can Washington hold on to that, maybe a final wild card spot? Could somebody else creep into there? I mean, because right now, let's face it, the NFC East it's Philly. I don't think Washington will catch up to Philly, but I guess never say never. Somebody's got to win the NFC South. I feel like we've said that how many times over the years that somebody's got to win that. AFC South, I mean, Texans, I think they have a shot to win the division or clinch a spot this weekend.
Right,
but that division
is just by default.
So what are some of the, obviously besides maybe the NFC West with the Rams and Seattle in there, and I don't want to discredit even the Cardinals at this point. Is there anything else you're kind of following along here at this point?
I think you've pretty well said it. I mean, the AFC, the race isn't exactly between a lot of teams.
Right.
There's not a lot of people on the in the hunt graphic.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at, like, right now, the 7th seed is Denver, but they're an 8-5 record right now because Chargers would be the 6th seed. So you got 3 AFC West teams right now in the postseason there, and that's with Kansas City at 12-1, and some of those wins, though, have been literally a play away from being completely different. I think Cincinnati is just, I don't know if they've got enough to make that run.
I don't think so. Like, there's just, you can only lose so many heartbreakers, I feel like.
Really, I'm looking at this, Brandon, and I see NFC South and NFC West is really the only two things to watch here. I don't know if Baltimore can catch Pittsburgh. I mean, Baltimore really needs Philadelphia to pull off the win for Baltimore to have a shot, because is it Baltimore and Pittsburgh still play again, I think, this year, right?
Because Pittsburgh won the first one.
Right. Is it the final game of the year? That could be another.
I mean, that would be another flexible one.
No, that's next week, actually.
Okay.
It's a Saturday game.
We're getting the Saturday action starting next week.
Yep. Baltimore and Pittsburgh. But then the Ravens got to finish up. They got the Texans at Texans, but then they get the Browns. So maybe that one over there. I feel like the Ravens team, too, they're 8-5, yet everybody is so in love with them.
Yes.
They're so in love with him. Like, that's still a Super Bowl contender. And it's like, okay, I get it, the Lamar and the Derrick Henry,
obviously there's talent there, but it's just like.
But are they playing up to that talent in a lot of instances?
Right.
So, at this point, who do you think is Coach of the Year?
This is tough, because when you make a case for someone, I think automatically people just assume you're discounting everybody else.
Yeah.
Because you can make so many good cases. But to me, if you're looking generally over the years, unless there has been one team that has been head and shoulders above the rest, it goes to the team that exceeded the expectation so much. And with me being a little bit of a homer with this, how can you not say that's Kevin O'Connell?
Mm-hmm.
Vegas had him at 6.5 wins.
Mm-hmm.
They could double that.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike 2 years ago, yeah, there was a fluky element to it when you looked at the advanced numbers. The advanced numbers did not like them. They were 13-4 or whatever it was with a negative point differential.
Mm-hmm.
They should have got one of the best point differentials in the league.
Right.
Like doing it with Sam Darnold, who you can count on the number on one hand, probably the amount of national pundits that thought that would work.
Mm-hmm.
I just, to me, I think you can just make a very, very good case for Kevin O'Connell.
Mm-hmm. To me, it's between two. I know Dan Campbell's going to get a lot. I feel like I agree with you. For Coach of the Year, it should be based off what was the preseason. Everybody knew Detroit was going to be good this year, right? I mean, everybody kind of knew everybody was going to be good. And that's no offense to Dan Campbell or anything like that. I do think Sean Payton deserves a little bit of credit for what Denver's. I did not give Denver
right. It's kind of the same thing there too. Nobody expected that.
So I wouldn't pick him, but I do think he deserves a little bit. This one's kind of weird because he's so consistent, but again, he's doing it again. And Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you look at that quarterback situation where they started off, is it going to be Fields or is it going to be Wilson? They started off with Fields and they still won. Now it's Wilson. He looks like he's back to Russell Wilson and all this other stuff. And it's just like the Steelers aren't supposed to be this way, but they continue to be that way. So I guess if it were me, my two are, I hate to say it, is Kevin Connell or Mike Tomlin. And I think if they did one for each conference, which might be the best way to kind of go about it a little bit, those would be the ones up there, with kind of Sean Payton getting a little bit of an honorable mention. And again, I don't want to discredit what Dan Campbell and the Lions are doing. And
it would be one thing if they were, what's their record, like 12-1?
Yeah.
If they were 12-1 and nobody else was in that stratosphere.
That's true.
And the next best record was like 9-4.
That's true.
Then you can say, okay, they are head and shoulders above. And even though a lot of people, including I think both of us, think the Lions might be the best team in the league, you've still got the Chiefs who have one loss. You've got the Eagles up there. You got the Vikings up there. You've got the Bills up there. You've got all these teams that are pretty even with them record wise.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough. It's tough. That would be a little bit tough for me because of that.
This might be a wild kind of way out there thought. And it kind of relates to the question I was going to bring up to you next. But obviously we saw Dan Campbell very, very risky in some of his decisions against the Packers and that, and it worked. All but one.
3 or 4. 3 or 4 of the attempts went.
Yep. Does that actually hurt his case for some voters' eyes? Because the question that's out there is, well, two-parter. Would he do that in the postseason? And would it work in the postseason?
I think it would be dumb to hold that against him when you look at the overall body of work.
Do some voters say, I disagree with that, so that's why
they might. I mean,
that's a dumb thing. He got lucky. He's not coach of the year.
Look at how voters vote for awards in sports all the time. Look at the Hall of Fame.
Or even, I was going to say the Hall of Fame.
It's when you got well, this guy, it was like BJ Surhoff got a vote because like the writer knew him when he was a kid or something.
Yeah,
like,
you got the voters who say
like he knew I know BJ Surhoff's not going to make it, but I'm going to give it like.
Or the ones that, like, I don't think anybody should be unanimous, so I'm not voting for the greatest player of all time.
People in those cases have dumb reasons that they vote the way they do for those sports awards.
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to but I think that's a dumb thing to hold against somebody.
I do too.
Because it shouldn't be, do I agree with how they go about it? It should be who is the most successful.
Mm-hmm.
And right now that's not something I would hold against Dan Campbell.
Now, do you think he would make those decisions in the postseason?
I do, because he kind of did last year.
Should he do that in the postseason?
Yes.
Same thing in that situation with Green Bay?
Yep.
Going for it on fourth?
Yep.
Okay.
When you're at the blackjack table, you always play the same way, no matter how much money is on the table.
Mm-hmm. That to me is going to be a great litmus test if he's put in a similar situation, what he does.
Yes, 100%. I agree.
I think the players embrace it, because he's putting
faith in you. He's saying, "Hey, I think you can go get these 2 yards."
Yep. This is
in
yours. I kind of want to see it happen. I want to see it happen. I hope it's not against my team, if they play. But it's like, I want to see, okay, is he going to have the same cojones, huevos, when it's 4th and 1 at the opponent's 30, 25 or whatever, less than a minute or whatever. He kicks the field goal there and he's got to gives the ball back to the other team with 40-some seconds left. Or does he no, we're going to run it.
No.
And win it on offense.
Right, and briefly flashing back to last week's game, like a big reason I was in favor of all of the tries he did was that defense was gassed.
Mm-hmm.
It's hurt. If they would have kicked that field goal earlier, I still had a non-zero feeling that the Packers were going to go down and be able to tie the game.
That's why, when Green Bay settled for that field goal to tie it instead of not able to punch it in because they made stupid mistakes again, I did not feel good.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, crap. They're just winning our chance to win it. I would have felt way better if they would have obviously had a touchdown instead of tying it, but still, it's like,
yep.
I felt like, no, they're not going to win it. That field goal just cost it. So, I want to see it happen.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what's going to happen if it fails?
Oh, he's going to get torched.
He's going to get torched. He's going to be put on. It's going to be the lead topic, especially if it costs their team a win in the postseason. If it happens earlier on in the first quarter and they still win, nobody cares.
Right.
But if it happens in that situation, he's going to be torched. He's going to be torched. So, should we get to it? Because we got a lot of picks to get to.
We do.
We didn't even get to some hoops yet. NBA Cup.
And we
got Badgers and Marquette basketball tonight.
Get excited.
Too. And Sweet 16 volleyball. Yes, Marquette and Wisconsin. So let's jump right to it. We got a lot of picks here. Quick break, and we'll get to our picks and predicts coming up in just a couple minutes. Time for some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Looking to beat the cold weather and watch some of the games in a warm environment. Head on over to the Elbow Room, located right next to the Banbury Place in Eau Claire, and catch some of these games. Whether it's hoops, got a lot of hoops tomorrow, or football for the weekend here too. We're going to lead off with the NBA. 2 games tomorrow for the semis, the NBA Cup here, Brandon. Hawks at Atlanta and Houston at OKC.
Hawks versus Milwaukee. You said Hawks at Atlanta.
Did I? Okay, yeah. Hawks versus Milwaukee in Vegas, and then Houston versus OKC in Vegas too. Let's go Houston versus OKC first.
I am gonna go with OKC.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Thunder too. Thunder, the best team in the league right now.
Could be.
Mm-hmm. Or Boston, or Clue, yeah. Atlanta versus Milwaukee.
I'm gonna take Milwaukee.
Darvin Ham is undefeated in NBA Cup games. Milwaukee wins. Milwaukee and OKC.
Milwaukee takes their walkers to Tuesday's finals.
I'm gonna go. Well, so we got same ones here. Let's do some college basketball then, Brandon. We've got what was that? Okay.
The college basketball and CBS theme just came in my head, so I started bouncing around.
Gotcha. Let's start off Marquette versus Dayton.
Marquette.
Yeah, I'm going to go Marquette too. So, and then we'll do Wisconsin, who's riding a 3-game losing streak going up against Butler.
I'm going to go Wisconsin. I think they bounce out of this.
They better.
They better.
They better. So I'm going to go Wisconsin too.
Badgers. For
this one. Does Marquette and Wisconsin volleyball advance to the Final Four?
No. I'm going to say Wisconsin wins tonight, but then they lose to Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska, that was a tough region to be placed in. Nebraska is darn good.
It is. Marquette's got who are they playing again tonight? It just blanked on my head here. I have it right here.
I would like to see it. That would be fun to have 2 Wisconsin teams make
Penn
it.
State.
Penn State. Okay.
Penn State's a 1 seed too.
Yeah, that would be fun to see them be able to make it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they do.
Let me double check here. Let me before I spew something that's not correct here. Let me double check something here. If this can happen. Are you looking? Gosh. Can we make this smaller for me to see? Yeah, they could face each other in the Final Four.
That would be a semi.
Final Four, yep. Make it happen. I don't think it happens.
Unfortunately,
I think Penn State beats Marquette, Wisconsin wins, but then falls in the Elite Eight. So, college football, we've got your Army versus Navy game, Brandon.
Why are they British?
I don't know. Did it sound British?
It sounded British to me.
All right. At least I know I can do some sort of accent. What do you got? Do I even need to ask?
Army.
Yeah, I'll go Army too for this one. Army is only favored by 6.5. Does that surprise you a little bit?
What's the over-under? Because I think the thing was like 15 years in a row, the under is hit.
39.5.
Ooh, so it could be like a 2017 game.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that, 2017 Army.
All right. I like it.
You bet.
We've got, by the way, don't forget, we posted up the link. Brandon set up the Bowl Pick'em group.
And so we don't have Dan complaining this year. It is not confidence points based. It is boring. It is just pick, and then whoever has the most right.
Shouldn't have to read rules when it comes to just straight up pick'em games, Brandon. These
always
underwriting
read the fine
stuff,
print.
Don't need a lawyer to look up pick'em contests for crying out loud.
I would like to see what a lawyer would do if you walked up to him and said, "Hey, can you read this pick'em contest rules for me?"
I wish, not to get off on topic here. I like to have, I got a guy for that. I got someone for that. I need a lawyer just so I can say I got a guy. Like if I got a question, I can text somebody.
I need legal advice.
Yeah, I'm like, I know somebody. I got a guy. I got a guy for that. I don't have that for a lawyer.
I got my Bowl Pick'em guy.
I got Dr. Crow. I got an auto guy. I got a tax guy.
I need a lawyer. You got an outdoors guy.
I got an outdoor guy. I need a lawyer guy or gal. I need a lawyer. Just somebody that I could text, be like, hey, what do you think about this?
Just picturing the lawyer from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I need one of those. I don't have a friend that's a lawyer.
I do.
I know you do. I don't have a friend that's a lawyer though. Come on, people. Did I not graduate? Did anybody that was smart enough to be a lawyer? Apparently not. No, I got to find that, though. I need a guy. I need
Who
a
wants
gal.
to be lawyers listening out there in your office right now? Who wants to be Dan's friend?
Yeah. Who wants to be my friend? My friend. So, by the way, your mom sent this text. I like this really quick. Throwing out this question. Why does baseball each league have manager of the year, but football doesn't have AFC/NFC winner?
That's a great question.
Also MVP. They
Yeah,
got MVP
they
in each
split
one,
up.
right?
That's a great question. Well, back in the day, the AL and the NL used to be
Very separate.
Yeah,
right?
they were very. Remember, I mean, before interleague play, they didn't even play.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming that's just why that like it used to be that way a while ago, and they haven't changed it.
What if Rob Manfred says, "I'll change that"? Would you be okay
I
with
actually
that?
wouldn't care.
Yeah.
It
It gets confusing with two MVPs.
It
I'm
does,
sorry.
but of all the things Manfred likes to say or do, that would be one of the more lukewarm temperatures I would have for it.
You know what? That might make my Festivus list. Baseball needs to switch it to just one
There you go.
because it's stupid to have two.
It is. It's.
So if it was Ohtani versus Judge, Ohtani still wins overall.
I think
right?
so.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
too.
so.
Well, now manager of the year would have been Pat Murphy over.
Or Stephen Vogt.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's a good one.
that would have been a good one.
I don't
right?
know.
That would have been a good one. All right, let's do some NFL picks here. I'm going to bring up the standings, and so we can go on the schedule for our Pro Football Weekly Pick'em Challenge. Jolene still up there, but I will say this: I did some scouting. We got a chance to make some movement this week.
Oh yeah.
Not a lot of very similar picks between some of the leaders here.
Oh,
Just saying. But
you cheated?
I did not cheat. I was looking at how picks went.
Are they out there?
Yeah, you can click on somebody's name and see what they picked.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know you could do
now
that.
I opened a Pandora's box for everybody to go do that. So
Right. So we're gonna have a lot of.
Yeah, you could catch up to me because I got two over you right now. So, did you get last night's right?
I did.
Attaboy.
Did you?
I did.
Ooh.
So, all right, let's go. Dallas at Carolina.
I am picking Carolina.
You would. I don't know why I just said that.
I like the way Bryce Young is playing these last 2 weeks.
I'm proud of Bryce Young.
Right.
I know he really cares about that right now. That he's, he's got my
that
approval.
Dan Casper in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Really cares about me.
But good for him.
Yeah.
Crappy situation. He gets benched, and then everybody's like, he's going to get traded. He's got to move on in that.
He's a bum. He's a bust.
He's come out and he's played really well. Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
I forgot who brought this up. Maybe it was DP, but or maybe it was either DP or Lebitard. I forget which, but they brought up the point, are the Panthers on the most impressive 3-game losing streak ever?
Ooh. Yeah.
When you think of how well they played in these losses, good for Bryce Young, good for Anthony Richardson too, kind of a similar situation.
Yeah.
They've both, sometimes you just need a refresher, and good for those coaches for kind of keeping confidence in them.
Yep. You know who I have confidence in this game? Mike McCarthy. Dallas wins. Tongue in cheek there a little bit. Kansas City at Cleveland. Okay.
Casey.
Miami at Houston.
I'm going to go Miami.
I went with the Ace Venturas too, Dolphins. I'm going with Snowflake, the dolphin from Ace Ventura. Is Snowflake still alive? How long do dolphins live?
I don't know.
I'm going Dolphins too. Jets Jaguars.
Game of the week.
The thing is, I don't know how this one goes.
I don't either. I went Jets.
I did too. I mean, at some point, at some point you got it, but it's the Jets. I have no idea. I think Aaron's controlling the drones that are going on in New Jersey right now and such. So, yeah.
Good thing this game is in Jacksonville, because if those drones were in New Jersey, we know they wouldn't touch down at MetLife Stadium, because nothing touches down at MetLife Stadium these days.
Rim shot. I wish I had that sound effect. Commanders at the Saints. Commanders. Ravens at the Giants.
Baltimore.
Yep. Same here. Bengals, Titans.
Bengals.
Patriots, Cardinals.
I'm going Cardinals.
Going Cardinals too. Colts, Broncos. I'm going Broncos too. Let's save the Buffalo, Detroit.
Yeah.
Buccaneers at Chargers.
I
am going with the Chargers too. And then I'm going to save the Steelers, Eagles one. I'm going to save the best ones.
There's some good ones this week. It's a good week. Wow.
I forgot we got 2 Monday night games.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay. Bears, Vikings.
I'm going to go Vikings.
Okay, you paused there for a second.
I'm like 60-40 on this.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I think it's I'm gonna say like Vikings like 27-17.
Brian Flores coaching against his future team.
Maybe. I heard they're interested. That would be interesting if they went from Eberflus to Flores.
Usually you see a lot of people go the opposite side,
Correct.
like an offense.
Correct.
And,
and given it's Caleb Williams and stuff, I would be a little surprised. And don't get me wrong, I think Brian Flores deserves a shot to be a head coach again.
mm-hmm.
That would be a little surprising given where the state of where the Bears are right now.
But it is the Bears.
It is the Bears.
So, Falcons at the Raiders.
I'm going to go Falcons.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to go Falcons.
Kirk Cousins has a bit of a bounce back here.
Needs it.
He needs it. He hasn't thrown a touchdown in a long time.
Steelers, Eagles.
Eagles.
I'm going with the Eagles too.
I am pulling for the Steelers though. Sorry, Philly fan Dave.
Buffalo, Detroit.
I want Buffalo.
If Buffalo won last week, I'd go Detroit this week probably, but Buffalo wins though.
Yes.
I think.
And I think at some point Detroit kind of gets bit a little bit, not necessarily for like the Dan Campbell stuff, but just from like they've played a bunch of close games recently. Like you can't win them all the time.
I thought I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks that they were going to lose a stupid game, and they haven't yet. But I think they lose this one, and that might be the game.
And this has the makings of like another high, like basically like the game the Bills played last week, but knowing that it's going to probably be like 20-14 or something.
Well, like last night's 12-6 game. So, and then Green Bay, Seattle.
I'm gonna go Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Green Bay too.
I mean, this Seattle team is very hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some weeks where you're like, ooh, and then there's some weeks you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
But
they're riding a 4-game winning streak right now.
Yeah.
You want to know what's interesting stat? 3-4 at home, 5-1 on the road.
Much better team on the road.
Yeah. Banged up offensive line for Seattle. It wasn't that good to begin with, but it's banged up now. Green Bay better take advantage of that.
Kenneth Walker playing?
It doesn't sound like he didn't practice again.
So
yesterday.
Zach Charbonnet?
Yeah.
Zach Charbonnet?
Jair, full participant again. I think that's a huge boost for this offense. Green Bay's more healthy heading into this game compared to Seattle. Green Bay wins this one.
I agree.
Green Bay wins that. So, all right, we got a couple different ones.
Oh, bad.
How come we don't do confidence points in this one?
How come we don't?
What's...
I don't think the software is.
It's because, I
don't think it's possible.
I would suck at confidence points. I really would. It's like the Survivor pick'em leagues. I like them, but I would stink at them so much. Like I just, there's more strategy involved in it than.
Oh, there is because, and every year there's always like one or two of those games that you think like, oh, and then you get burned.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't have nobody's volunteering to be my lawyer friend. So we must not have any lawyers that listen.
Maybe they know that's not sound advice.
Jeez. I just want somebody who I can be like, I can text anytime I want. I got a question. That's all I want as a friend.
Is that your wife?
I need a friend, man. I got a car guy. I got a dock guy. I got a tax guy. I got a
outdoor guy.
An outdoor guy. What else do we need? What else? What kind of guys do you need? That could be a top 5. The top 5 guys or gals you need.
Yes, the people. Yeah,
I'm gonna write that down so
there
I don't forget that.
You got a dog sledding guy with Richie.
That's true. Richie did text to say, "Who's your worm guy?" I already got a worm guy. His name is Big Worm. So
that's true.
That was easy. I got one. In fact, in Medford, there used to be I don't even know if it's still there, but it was like a fishing company. Fishing company. I can't think of the name, but yeah, they made like fishing worm bedding and all that. And the old Marathon Cheese factory over there too. Can't think of the name. I'll have to ask my buddy Jake, but yeah.
See, you got a guy.
I got a guy. I've got a guy that I can ask that guy. So there you go. The only one I was thinking about that is like, I don't have a lawyer guy or gal. Okay, I'm gonna write. See, top 5. Yep. Got to have a guy. Because I'm not math and all that too. That's why I can't do my own taxes. So that's why I got shout out Matt, my tax guy. So yeah, I think what else? Yeah, top 5. Gotta have a guy. That's a good one. Because I know I'm gonna miss some, and then I gotta find that one. I gotta find that person. I got a beer guy.
Yeah, you do.
I got a beer guy. So, yeah, I got a Scotch guy. I got a bourbon guy.
Yeah.
I got that one too.
Yeah,
You've used the bourbon guy.
Yeah, he
bourbon and Scotch. So
he was great.
Need a lawyer guy or gal. It'll happen. I have faith in humanity that this will happen. I hope so. Speaking of the podcast, we'll have a new episode dropping after this month. No top 5 for this week, but we'll put it up. I'm going to make a list. So then,
how many times are you going to check it?
Checking it twice.
All right.
Gonna find out who's naughty or nice.
Festivus is
Festivus.
less than 2 weeks away.
You know, if we had more time, we should have had somebody come up with a Festivus theme song. Lyrics and everything.
Oh, I thought you just meant like pick a song.
No, like somebody who writes it.
You got a music guy?
Ben.
There you go, Ben.
Our mutual friend Ben. Maybe Luke can do the chorus part of it. I don't know, but I think maybe a week and a half is a little too short of a notice. Like,
and they could have unveiled it the day of.
Yeah, we could have had the winner in that and unveil it. Dang. We needed like a theme song. Mr. Waller, come on. They did the third grade class. Remember the theme song? I got a guy there too. I don't know if they can do it though in a week. I think, third graders are busy doing other stuff right now. So, all right, DP, Danets are up next. Have a fantastic Monday. We'll do this again Monday more. Fantastic Monday. Fantastic Friday. Hopefully we'll have a fantastic Monday with a victory Monday.